California. This dickbag Jerry Brown has obviously lost his ever-loving mind. First, he pushes for illegals to actually be allowed to vote, which is a sure win for Democrats to stay in power. Even though that's illegal and unconstitutional, he does it anyway, supplying Hillary Clinton with millions of votes. Then he declares California a sanctuary state, allowing refuge for anyone that shows up. That's so cool, so trendy, so progressive. He has recently reduced the criminal charges that come with spreading HIV from one person to another knowingly, because that law discriminates towards gays. So now anyone with a loaded pecker can have peace of mind knowing that if they infect another person knowingly, they'll get the equivalent of a speeding ticket. But wait, it don't just stop there. There's now a bill in place to actually jail people for misusing gender pronouns. Well, if I lived in California, it looks like I'd be going to jail because I refuse to call you by your pronoun, which is going to switch next week to a different pronoun. California wants to secede from the United States of America, and I say we let them. Maybe now is a good time for President Trump to actually cut their federal funding so that they can see what living on their own is really like. Moving on. Can I ask you guys one simple question? Where are the feminists now? Where in the hell is the Pink Pussy Hat Brigade? Where's all the ultra Hollywood liberal elites? Why isn't the media coming out and actually crucifying Harvey Weinstein? This fat bastard's been in Hollywood abusing women for years, and people have known about it and said nothing. Is it because he's a liberal? Is it because he donated millions of dollars to Obama and Hillary Clinton? Or is it because he runs Hollywood and you refuse to bite the hand that feeds you? Imagine if this guy was a Trump supporter. Oh my God, they've already burned his house down. But seriously, thanks Hollywood for exposing yourselves yet again for all the hypocrites you truly are, thus proving that you should probably just shut your mouths and keep acting and entertain us. Hollywood's ran by pedophiles. Is there an investigation on Weinstein? Because something tells me he might have child pornography on his computers. Just like Glee actor Mark Solling, he enjoys kiddie porn too. And let's not talk about Disney execs. Here's where somebody chimes in and says Zionists. Imagine if all these Hollywood celebrities would actually exert the same energy they put out to destroy Donald Trump to destroy pedophilia and sexual abuse within their own industry. But I guess that as long as it's a liberal doing it, that makes sense.
Well, good morning. Happy Saturday to you. This is Lou Benninger. You're listening to Live with Lou, and we're at the Patriot. I'm here with the Wiki Man Santos Vigil today. We are live. We were going to pre-record this show last night, but Santos' boss let him go, set him free, and he's out here live. We're both breathing on each side of the glass. And we're going to be here for 3 hours. Again, this is 1410 AM, The Patriot. And we're up here on Mount Huth, and I thought earlier in the week I was going to have to put on my winter tires to slodge up here when it gets sloppy. And I got to getting nostalgic this last week and remembered the days of the Occupy people out here protesting and people bringing in donuts to help us out, and sometimes even the big kahuna coming in and dropping the F-bomb because we had the air conditioning on, and then buying us Popeye's chicken and the fish helping us and Danny Disco and all our characters out here. They're all gone. It's just us. And in fact, we may have to have some volunteers. We had all these mice in here, and now they're all dead. We need some people out here to bury these mice. So we need a crew to come out and dig some little shallow graves. We got so much rat poisoning, mice poisoning out here. I'm afraid to touch anything or pick up anything and nibble on it. So we're here for 3 hours, and we're out here in Yuba County. If this is the first time you've ever stumbled across us, Yuba County is up here in Northern California, and it's one of the poorer counties of California, but it's a pretty cool place to live, actually. It's pretty. It got some lakes and rivers, and it got some mountains, and you can get up in the snow in Yuba County. You can stay in the valley and stay around. You can get burned out or flooded out in Yuba County. Either way. Not every county you can have dual disasters in the same year. So welcome. And if you want to dial us up, you can. We are pro-choice out here, and so that means we may have to abort your call if it isn't convenient or in some ways furthers my career. We can't take that call, but you can try at 742-5555. I was here yesterday, the big kahuna of all these stations, KNYC and all. I don't know even how many the Huth Broadcasting has, 10, 12, I don't know how many stations, but he made a donation to trauma intervention yesterday. And he said, Lou, millions of people are calling the station. I think that was an exaggeration, actually, but he said millions of people call the station. I'm not sure whether that was good or bad. If you do want to call 742-5555, we will answer the phone. I won't, but my sidekick over here will. And if you call us at another time, you can always leave a message if you hate us or love us. Either way is fine with me. I'm getting used to it. So I wanted to mention right off, I just heard this, we heard all this. In fact, they finished the previous show talking about a little bit of the NFL. And then on the way in, I was listening to it, the NBA at one of these great singers. I forget her name. Is one of these singers with just one word. Is it Sky or something like that? Anyway, really good female singer. I could hear her singing the national anthem. And lo and behold, I think it was like one of the New York teams, Brooklyn or New York. The anthem speaker took a knee as she finished singing the national anthem and just thought, I don't care whether I ever come back and sing again. This is for Black Lives Matter. And I said, well, isn't that something? But I saw this article this morning that I was blessed by in Newark, New Jersey, the same area this woman took the knee after singing the national anthem at an NBA game. I'm just waiting for the NBA game NBA teams to have a meltdown over this honoring the people that served and are serving in our communities and overseas. I'm waiting for the NBA to have a meltdown and just say, screw you, too. But at this hockey game back there, they have a hockey team called the New Jersey Devils. And before you Christians all get lathered up, most of you don't even believe in the devil or the demonic, so get over it, why don't you, and quit pretending. The fans at the New Jersey Devils game listened to a 14-year-old female sing the national anthem. If I was a 14-year-old trying to sing the national anthem, I'd be wetting my pants. But she was singing it, and right in the middle, she got nervous and forgot the words. So the crowd of more than 14,000 just finished the song with her. Isn't that cool? I just thought that was cool. They just all said, oh, we got this, right? We got this. And they all did it together, and she picked it right up. And I thought, something? That 14-year-old means more to me than if the NFL all dropped dead and the NBA all dropped dead, I wouldn't lose a minute of sleep. And I really value my sleep. I wouldn't lose a minute of sleep over it because those folks ain't with us. You get me? Most of those folks ain't with us. And it's like the Bible says, they went out from us because they weren't ever a part of us. Remember that? It said went out from us because they weren't really ever a part of us. So you think, oh, these are Americans? No, they're something else. They're just something else, and they never were with us, and you kind of assumed they were with us or hoped they were with us, but they like beating up their women, raping women, getting DUIs, snorting cocaine, talking trash, right? They weren't with us. And disrespecting the cops like their leader, the Barack. Remember the Barack with the beer summit? How disgraceful. Remember the Barack mocking the police? How disgraceful. The leader of the United States of America. If he wasn't the president, people would just jackslap him and throw him to the curb, right? And take his pants off and let him walk around naked. That's what they do to him. But because he's president, you're going to get arrested if you do that. But that's what Barack needs, is a jack slap. And his wife probably takes care of that. I still can't figure out who is actually the female in that group. But anyway, that's another topic. So I want to mention a couple things from right at the beginning. First of all, even though I'm going to make a pitch here, one of the Marysville police officers, Sergeant Greg Parks, has been struggling with cancer. And every one of us has been touched by cancer. My family, if anybody dies in my family, it's by cancer. They don't die by anything else. And Greg has been struggling with that. He's no longer working. And there's going to be a spaghetti feed at the Marysville Elks Lodge right there at Ellis Lake on D Street. And it's just a week away, I think. It's on the 27th, 6 to 9. And you can just go in there and have some good spaghetti made by Recology and salad. They make good spaghetti, those Recology people. They've been doing it for decades. So I'm sure they're doing that, donating that to help Greg and his family. There's a picture I'm looking at here. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4 children, beautiful children, and a beautiful wife. And it makes me sad that he is not well. And they're little kids, and it makes me sad that they may end up being raised without their pops. So you can go to that, and I'm sure you can just walk in, or you can pick up tickets over at Marysville Police. That's the easiest way to do it. Just walk in there. $25 a ticket. And I just, help that brother out. I'm going to send him a donation. I'm not going to go because I can't go at that day, but you can certainly give a donation even if you don't eat the spaghetti and go over there. So the event is October 27th. Probably that's a Saturday. It doesn't say here, but I'm guessing Saturday. What's the date today? Is it 21st? Yeah, so it's next Saturday. And it's 6 to 9 p.m. Okay, do something. It's like when people get cancer, and I think, even though Greg probably made good money, he's probably got health insurance, but there's a lot of expenses that happen to you that health insurance doesn't cover when you're sick. And anyway, we hope that Greg has a miracle happen in his life and he can just recover and go on with his life. God bless him, Greg Parks, Sergeant Greg Parks from the Marysville Police Department. So the other thing I wanted to mention is my friends at Leslie Greenitz, who's been my friend, she and her husband Dave, for over 40 years. Leslie is both of them are amazing people, incredibly talented. Dave has a construction firm, but if you've ever been to a play at the Church of Glad Tidings at the Embassy Theater, you'll see these incredible sets that move around, spin around, drop from the ceiling, come up out of the floor. Those are Dave Greenitz creations with his wife, Leslie. But Leslie is a painter, professional, not a house painter, but an artist. Her mom is a sculptress. Her dad was a jazz sax and woodwind player, clarinet, flute, used to play behind people like Frank Sinatra and used to play Tahoe, Las Vegas, all over the country. She comes from a very talented family. She is the brain trust behind Creative Light Theater, which conducts their dramas 2 or 3 times a year at the Church of Glad Tidings Embassy Theater at 1179 Eager Road or Eager at 99. And they have a play coming up called The Ripple Effect. Now, the name is kind of funny to me because in my early years when I was up to no good, we used to drink Ripple. It's a funky wine. I don't even know whether it still exists. But I would say they should have named this the butterfly effect, right? You probably studied the butterfly effect, but they call it the ripple effect. Experience the epic lengths God will go for the love of one person and the effect of love on the people along the way. And it's an originally written play. It's an original play written by these folks out there. And also all the music is original, probably written by a guy named Ronnie Rollins. 15 original songs, 16 actors. So if you want to go to some fun entertainment, which has a great message, no sex, no perversion, no people having sex with a donkey on stage or covering themselves with chocolate and having sex, people that are kind to one another, and it's free. It's a Christmas play. It starts December 8th through the 12th, 7 p.m. nightly. There's always a break. You can get snacks. There's drinks. It's fun. It's a fun event. It's a fun Christmas time event for your family and children. And they do take a collection because it costs money to build all the props and all the actors and actresses. I heard there's people from a multitude of churches and around the community that are playing these 16 different parts. So December 8th through 12th, go out and enjoy yourself. To me, I went to my first play when I was in college, and I loved it. I just love live drama, and so this is your chance. These are some of in fact, even though the Appeal Democrat doesn't give much coverage, these are the highest attended plays in the community. Not putting down the acting company or Yuba College Theatrics, or there's a number of other ones. Faith Christian puts on some good plays. These plays at the Embassy Theater at Church of Glad Tidings campus are some of the most well-attended plays and unique plays in the area. So hope you go out there. The ripple effect, or what I'd call the butterfly effect. Ripple just reminds me of getting under the influence of alcohol. So, all right, let's see. What else do I want to say? Oh, also, maybe you guys can help me out. I was supposed to sell some gun raffle tickets, and I'm behind for trauma intervention. Maybe you guys can bail me out. We're auctioning off next Saturday night. We're pulling a raffle ticket for someone to win the Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm. It includes 3 magazines with it. And so they're $20 a ticket. And when you purchase a raffle ticket, if you were unfortunate not to win, you can take the ticket and go to the Shooter's Paradise, and you can get free range time for 1 hour. In other words, you get in this range and just shoot like you always wanted to. Just pretend you're Clint Eastwood. And so that's cool, right? And if you do win, we'll be calling you up. So you can buy a ticket. We're only selling 300 of these tickets. So this is, if you buy the lottery tickets, you got an incredible chance to win here. With lottery, you have a better chance of getting hit by lightning. With this, you have a high chance of winning. You only got one. There's only 300 tickets being sold, and for $20 a ticket. So you don't have to be present to win. In fact, you can die, and we'll still give it to your estate, and we'll just make it right. So if you want to, you can dial me up. It's 713-1838, 713-1838, or you can text me and say, I'll take this many tickets and how to get a hold of you, and I'll make it easy to take the money from you and deposit your stubs. So I got about a quarter inch of these tickets that I was supposed to sell, and I'm behind, so don't help me not be embarrassed, right? Okay, so along with that, for years we did a fundraiser for trauma intervention, a food fundraiser, and the Yuba City Fire Department guys put it on, Warren Miller and Dave Newquist. And over the years, people come and go. Warren retired, and Dave decided to take a job at Roseburg, Oregon Fire Department, which was a huge loss to the city of Yuba City. The guy was amazing. And he was like catered everything almost for free for the city, and used to cater this event for us. So when Dave left, we lost our free caterer, and then the state of California told the Catholic Church that we couldn't use their building, which was a really cheap building, but the best building in town. So we thought, something, when we pay a caterer, pay the Yuba Sutter Fairgrounds or somewhere else, there's not much left. So we decided to just ask people to help tip. And what you get in return is tip. You don't get a tri-tip steak. You don't get jack. You just get the satisfaction of having tip around. And so as of yesterday, tip had responded to 35 911 responses this month. And if you want to support tip, you can. If you don't have to. It's not like the government where if you don't want to give your taxes, they will come and take your money from you, right? No, we won't do that. If you want tip, you can have it. If you don't want it, you don't have to have it. We'll go do something else. And so you can go online, and there's a number of ways you can send us a check. Some of my friends just sent me a check, then nothing comes out and gets taken for a service that's provided for us. So you can send a check to tip, P.O. Box 645, Marysville, 95901. So that's Box 645. Or you can go to youcaring, youcaring, one word, .com/tip, youcaring.com/tip. And you can go on there and you can give as little as $10. In fact, I noticed the other day I went in and got a coffee and it was like $4 something or $5. You buy average coffee, you get one of those foo-foo coffees. It costs you $4 or $5. So you can fund a 24-hour-a-day emergency response help to our fellow citizens for the price of a couple lattes. So you can go to youcaring.com/tip, or you can go onto our website at yubasuttertip.org and go to donate, and you can donate there. So, or you can just mail it to me at Box 645. You might think, well, Lou, I don't like you. I don't like your political stance, so I'm not gonna support you because you're making money off this tip. Well, if it's any comfort to you, I don't make any money. In fact, it costs me money to be involved in this tip, but it's worth it, right? It's worth it when you get involved in a good thing. So if you want those tickets, 713-1838, just dial me up or text me. And when Andy Vasquez was leaving the radio show, he walked out and bought 11 tickets, $220. Thank you, Jesus. He was helping me save face with the tip volunteers. So, hey, I want to give a shout out, and I'll comment more after the break, but I am so proud of the Yuba County emergency response people during this fire. And I've talked to one of our tip volunteers was right in the middle of the operations center of the emergency. She works at the county, and she said, Lou, it went really well. I was talking to her last night by text, and she said, Lou, I'm so proud of what we did. We got commendations from the state level saying how organized we were. This gal is a really a pursuer of excellence, this lady. She's a stickler for excellence, and she said, Lou, it went really well. Sheriff Durfer this week told me how well it went, how organized it went for a very poor county, and people did their jobs. And there were a lot of other agencies that participated. Sutter County agencies participated. Other adjacent counties participated, but Yuba County had to do the coordination, and they did an amazing job. I watched some of the news conferences, and the county participants, the way they spoke to the victims, it was really compassionate, kind. They really did amazing. Law enforcement was amazing. I talked to 2 deputies from Yuba and Sutter County independently last week. They said, Lou, we've been through some really scary experiences as deputies. He said, that scared the hell out of us, that fire. I said, what was it like? They said, Lou, we were knocking people's doors in, getting them out of bed while the front yard was on fire. Hold that thought. So they said at times we thought we were going to burn up there. So way to go. I'm very proud. It's very difficult to go through a huge emergency like that, a crisis, a tragedy in the county. But, when the county pulls together, when government pulls together, that's what we pay. The constitutional mandate was we want emergency responders to protect us and our property, right? And they did that, right? They kicked rear up there and minimized the loss of life and the loss of property. But are we done? Yeah, we got to go to a break. We'll be right back. We got 2.5 hours left.
bringing new meaning to the term first responders.
Fellow community members stepping forward, volunteering their time to help others faced with what might be some of the most traumatic incidents in their lives.
It's called the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP. It's been used in communities across the United States for years, and its volunteers have been dispatched to provide what they call emotional first aid. A collaboration between police, paramedics, fire departments, and even hospital staff is making sure residents are emotionally taken care of in a time of crisis. Residents are volunteering their time with the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP, dispatched to the scene of a fire, accident, or death to focus on the emotional needs of those left behind.
It's just being there and being comforting, like a good friend or an extension of your family.
Ready to assist, sit, and listen to community members in a time of tragedy.
To learn more about the Trauma Intervention Program, visit yubasuttertip.org or call 673-9300.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
I'm Chris Ann Hall, and if you agree with me, as Samuel Adams said, that knowledge and virtue are the keys to preserving liberty, then join me for free at Liberty First University. For a limited time, we are offering a 5-day trial membership at no cost and no risk to you. But as Sam Adams said, our ignorance may cost us our liberties. Go to libertyfirstuniversity.com and enroll today for your 5-day free trial membership.
Hello, my fellow American women. I'm a working mom of 2 teenagers, a daughter and a son. I'm a small business owner who has created jobs for other women, mentored teen girls, and supported many women in their personal and career pursuits over the years. Nobody tells me what to do or how to think, how to live my life, or who to vote for, ever. I hold no allegiance to any other woman just because she's a woman. That's tribal and sheepish and stupid. Yeah, so I refuse to vote for Hillary Clinton for president, and I'm not alone. There are millions of us, right, left, and center, who made this choice of our own free will. And now Michelle Obama has denigrated us all. The former First Lady opened her big mouth last week and stuck her Jimmy Choo-heeled foot in it. Quote, "As far as I'm concerned, any woman who voted against Hillary Clinton voted against their own voice," she carped. Wait, she wasn't done. "Well, to me, that just says you don't like your voice. You like the thing we're told to like." Hold up, sister. Corruptocrat nanny state hack Hillary Clinton is not my voice, and neither are you. This is so typical of self-anointed feminists who purport to oppose sexism and then trash all the women who don't agree with them as self-hating traitors to their own gender. For 8 years, Hollywood, the media, and Democrats told us we were supposed to like Michelle Obama. They called her down-to-earth, relatable, and real. Well, millions of us with XX chromosomes and independent minds saw right through her, just like we saw through Hillary Clinton. We saw Barack Obama's bitter half marinated in Ivy League entitlement, milking identity politics for all it's worth. We saw her race-baiting Princeton thesis. We saw her 6-figure University of Chicago crony appointment awarded solely because of her marital status to a U.S. senator. We saw her belittle America as just downright mean, and we heard her endlessly bemoaning her work-family balance struggles and her law school debt. We saw her spurn pride in our country until adulthood, when her husband, Narcissus in Chief, was elected. We saw her manufacturing stories of imagined bias while she shopped at Target with her entourage of Secret Service agents. We saw her taxpayer-subsidized jet-setting around the world, and we watched her belly aching about the burdens and sacrifices of public life with billionaire Oprah Winfrey. Don't tell us, Your Highness Michelle Obama, about grace, humility, and the need for unity while you divide by gender, color, and politically correct grievance. Don't speak for me or my mom or my daughter. Mouth off all you want, and we'll mouth off all right back at you. Speak for your own chromosomes and leave ours alone.
Welcome back. You're listening to Live with Lou. Hey, we're brought to you by the Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots today, and they meet on the first and third Monday nights each month. So if you can't remember what first and third is, the next one is November 6th. And they meet out at the same place that the Ripple play is going to be conducted. That's at the Church of Glad Tidings at Highway 99 at Eager Road. And they're in Building 200. The play will be in Building 100. But it'll be marked when you go in, so you can kind of get handheld going in. You don't need to be a member or pay anything. You just come on out. It's 6:30 start. They have speakers every month. I'll give you an update on the speakers when I hear back from them. But we got a couple weeks to go. So you can get there about 6 o'clock. I think doors open. Here's the deal. Here's the deal about the Tea Party Patriots. Tell me what other organization in the community that are activists that got their head on straight. It's hard to pick them, right? And when you go to a Tea Party meeting, there's not a huge number of people there when you think we got almost 170,000 people in the two counties. If we're going to make a difference, in fact, I don't know, Wiki, did you see Steve Bannon talking at that? He spoke to some big conservative group. It was pretty cool. I watched it on Breitbart last night. And he was talking to Californians like, hey, you better get it together. And we got all the elements to turn things around here if you're really sick and tired of stuff. So if it's easy to whine, like I think Andy Vasquez commented earlier about people whining. Whining doesn't get jack done. You got to persuade people. You got to vote. You got to write letters to the editor. You got to show up at supervisors meeting and city council meeting and say, hell no. Hell no, we're not going to do that. And if you don't straighten up, we're going to throw your butt out of office and go back to mowing grass or whatever you did before this. Honestly, people, this is a participation sport, this republic idea. This is a participation sport. This wasn't a deal where you sit in the stands and drink a beer and nod off, right? And so if you want to see something different in California, it can happen. There's 40 million people are kicking around here almost, and so we can change it up. And if you think all these so-called liberals are into surrendering all their freedom, it just takes them a longer period of time to wise up and have all their money taken from them. So you ought to go out to this Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots meeting on the 1st and 3rd and start learning, right? It's if you don't know what's going on, you won't know what's going on. And it'll go right over the top of you, and you'll think, oh, how did that happen? When did they pass that? Well, how do you know about that, right? So most of you don't read a newspaper. If you do, you should read. I'd actually recommend you read both the Appeal Democrat and the Territorial Dispatch. If you only did one, you didn't have any money, you can get the Territorial Dispatch for free, and you can go online and read the whole paper. The Appeal, you can't do that. So you need to inform yourself what's going on, and you need to get involved in learning about the Constitution. In fact, I'll just give you a little website you can go to, and you can just connect on the Constitution. Go to chrisannhall.com, K-R-I-S-A-N-N-E, and common spelling, A-N-N-E, Hall, H-A-L-L.com, Chris Ann Hall with a K. And she will hook you up with a Constitution course. The Sutter Butte's Tea Party's also doing a Constitution course back at Glad Tidings. They do it on Wednesday nights. They're probably about a third of the way through that course now, but you can dip into it. And it's also free on Wednesday nights, and you should go check it out. Let me give you, I don't know whether I have a number to call or not. I don't have a number handy. Maybe I'll do it later in the show. So anyway, thank you Tea Party. Thank you to Dave Green's Construction. You'll hear his commercial. He also helps us, and also the Plumbing Doctor. You'll hear his commercials as well. Hey, all these sports people that you're learning about that are like wanting to strut their stuff, and then they want you to come. And I love that guy, that one football player. I don't know who he is. I can't remember his name. NFL. He says, hey, you don't want to support us? Don't. I thought, thank you, Jesus. That's like a come to Jesus moment. I got that, and I'm choosing not to support them. I don't buy any of their products. I don't watch them on TV. I'm not interested in them. I've actually lost interest in the NFL. I used to I played sports in high school. I liked sports. And I'm really right on the verge of like the NBA. I love the NBA, and I love to listen to the Warriors. But once the Warriors said, hey, invitation to the White House, screw you. I thought, oh, really? I thought, that's how it is? I thought, you just lost your credibility. I don't care whether you guys, Steph Curry claims he's like a Christian boy or something. His like stock in my mind dropped off to like barely alive. And it's okay with me. The country's big. If people want to shoot heroin, shoot hoops, shoot themselves in the head, do whatever, it's a free country, right? But nobody's forcing me yet in this country to give my money to any sports organization or any politician or any business that disrespects the nation, disrespects law enforcement, disrespects the military, disrespects those who have given their life, whether it was as law enforcement or fire or military overseas. Something, I'm not forced to give you any howdy-do, watch you, support you, buy stuff from you. I'm not. And so isn't that cool? So, somebody said, I think it was if it was Brian Aronson, the judge, it was a Brian Aronson went on Facebook and said, how come you guys are talking about boycotting Budweiser? I don't know that he likes Budweiser, but I thought, well, every time I shop and I buy grapes versus turnips, I'm voting for grapes, and I voted against turnips. And turnips can just sit there on the shelf, and somebody else is going to like turnips. Hallelujah to you. I don't feel bad towards you. But every time you spend your money, you are voting in this country. And you're voting for one corporation and against another. You may not think bad about the other, but you just don't want their product because, like Kellogg's. You remember Tony the Tiger with Kellogg's? Well, Kellogg's spends millions of dollars for left-wing causes like Black Lives Matter. So I don't even eat that kind of cereal anymore. The bottom line is it kills you. All those Kellogg's flakes and all that stuff, that sugar in there, that'll kill you in the end. So I don't buy that stuff anyway, but honestly, as a kid I did. But their stock, that company is in a full-blown dive. So anyway, there you have it on that. I'm not, a couple of people said, hey, you're going to address the NFL and NBA? Honestly, people, what's so special about it? I told the person the other day, I said, in fact, I've had a number of conversations this week. I said, guys, honestly, you assumed those people kind of thought like you did, but they don't think anything like you, unless you like slapping your women around, raping women, right? Getting DUIs, fighting in bars, right? Having funky tattoos all over their body, making them look like some zoo animal. If that's you, hey, get it on, right? Snorting cocaine. If that's you, get it on, right? It's a free country. So all we're doing is learning. These people haven't changed. They're just saying, hey, this is who we are. Like, screw you people. That's what they're saying, right? The NFL, the NBA, they say, screw you people. You've been supporting us and allow us to make hundreds of millions of dollars contracts. We don't care about you. We hate you. We hate your people. We hate the country. We hate the cops. We hate, they're flipping a bird to the military. Come on, straighten up and pay attention. Like, what are you thinking? Like, you're a sissy or something, and you're thinking, oh, well, they have a right to do whatever. No, they don't have a right to do anything, right? We have a right not to support them. And if they work for my business, I would can them, right? But, oh, well, nobody has a right to can anybody. Oh, really, they don't? Well, we should get back to that. Owners, you know what the problem is in this country? We put wealth and prosperity higher than the most important things in life is, and that's respect and honor, right? And honoring those who have served us. We put like, well, if they don't, if we tell them they're fired, then we won't win the league. We won't win the division. Well, we might not win the next game. Well, what are we going to do if we don't have a good quarterback? Hey, maybe we should just like take a year off from the NFL. Just shut it down for a year and just take a powder, right? I got a kick out of the fact, 75% of them are, why don't we just have 100% black NFL and just have the NFL be a black NFL, and then they could all protest against themselves, right? And because I don't know whether they're just protesting, I was told that the Raiders allowed the opposition team to come right through their offensive line to thump Derek Carr because he didn't take a knee. Honestly, people, who wants to hang out with people like this? Who would want, if I got a chance to have lunch with Barack Obama, I'd rather have lunch with the lady next door that needs an operation on her back and is in pain all the time and is broke. I'd rather have lunch with her than have lunch with, what, a communist? A person that's disrespectful to law enforcement, mocks law enforcement, goes to the funeral of criminals and gangbangers? Honestly, people. Have you thought about these sexual perverts? I just saw where Harvey Weinstein went to he pleaded with everybody, don't take away my company. Don't take away. One of the most powerful guys in Hollywood was reduced to begging for his company. Don't take away my company, man. Just like I'll go to a sex clinic, a sex addict clinic. He lasted less than a week at the sex clinic, and he maybe they fixed him. Do you think they could fix him in a week? And you remember, these are the big liberals. These are the guys that claimed the Republicans have a war on women. Harvey Weinstein. I don't know, have we got to 100 women yet? Have we counted up? Are we counting the women that have come out now? They're finally coming out because they're brave enough to come out and say, he did this to me, he did that to me, he grabbed my butt, he grabbed me in the crotch, he did this, he did that, he wanted to see my breasts, right? He wanted me to massage him, he pulled down his pants. These are the people that are the leaders in our country. How about Bill Clinton? How about Anthony Weiner? Mr. Weiner Man. Remember him? Uma's husband, sending his package through the mail, through the email, right? How about Bill Cosby? Big leaders, right? War on women. All these Republicans, they hate women, they hate women, they hate women. And all along, these women have been getting molested and raped by these Democrats and just, I can't talk about it because we got to because it's the Republicans got a war on women. Unbelievable. Is it unbelievable or what? I just can't believe it. Judicial Watch finally got the records. Anthony Weiner's laptop had 2,800 government documents from his wife, Uma Abedin. I always get a kick out of these. Now, I can understand a guy wanting to have sex with other people when you're married to Hillary Clinton. Now, that'd be like having sex with a piece of cardboard. But Uma Abedin is an attractive person. And, she isn't, can you imagine, have you ever heard Hillary Clinton, how caustic she is? Honestly. Maybe she was a babe when she was 20. I don't know what happened to her, but I think she likes to have sex with women more than men. But Uma Abedin seems a little bit different, but who knows? You don't really know these people. They're like the NFL and the NBA players. You don't really know them. You say, can you please, will you please autograph my baseball cap or my shirt, right? can you touch my baby's head? Please? Honestly, people, we've lost our minds. And people like, and they love to hate pretty Republican women or conservative women like Melania Trump. Can you imagine all the filthy things could you imagine all the filthy, terrible things they said about Melania Trump? You know what I like about her? She and President Trump, like a lot of Christians, they said, well, I'm not going to vote for Trump. And then they lay out all the imperfections. And I always like to think of it like, why don't we talk about some of your imperfections? Like, you perfect. You're voting for a perfect president. Melania Trump, she has 4 staff people at a cost of less than $500,000 and all the overhead to provide those, have 4 staff people working for her. Michelle Obama she had 16, and some say up to 24, spending $1.5 million, right? Isn't that amazing? I got a list of all of them here, but I won't bother you. You don't know them anyway. I don't know them, so who cares about them? And did you know that when you look at the White House personnel, according to a June report, Forbes reported that Donald Trump is getting by with 110 fewer employees than Barack Obama did in the White House. Not throughout the federal government. This is just in the White House. You know what you're saving on that? You think, oh, it doesn't really make any difference. Oh, really? It's $22 million a year. Just thought you'd want to know that. But some of you, you don't care. It's just like you're not focusing on that. You're not focusing on that. Somebody better do something out there, or we're all going to get our butts kicked. I want to talk some about this morning about this homeless thing. And what we have here is a lot of so-called conservative people that are really socialists. And they believe somehow that government can solve the matters of the heart. And that ain't going to happen. Nobody is going to force anybody like Harvey Weinstein, who is a pervert, or any of those other perverts in Hollywood. Nobody's forcing them to go into a rehab and change their life. In fact, I've been teaching in rehabs for decades. And a guy can go through a rehab and get the certificate and come out the other end and go and use the minute he walks out the door. That's just the way it is. Does it mean the rehab failed? No, not really. It just means that the person was not interested in changing their life. They just went through the motions. Same way with prison. Prison shakes some people down and they change their life, and others, it don't. And they just go out and do the funky thing again. So all of a sudden I had a gal come up to me. I spoke at this meeting with the Republican women in Sutter County, and a lady came up to me at the end. I should have handled it publicly, but they didn't give me an opportunity. Lady came up to me at the end and says, I read your articles about homelessness, and she said, well, what are we going to do about them? I'm going to tell you what we're going to do about them. What are we going to do? I said, you want to handle that right here? I had people lined up wanting to ask me questions about things. Well, what are we going to do about the homeless people if we don't give them all our money? They got a gun to our head. So I heard that Jim Whitaker and Dan Flores and those guys said, listen, if we hire you, Scott Mitnick, you're going to have to solve the homeless problem. I want you to think about it. How many people do you think are in the Yuba Sutter area? I want you to think for a moment. Okay, the moment's up. There's about 167,000 people or so, right, around here. There's 95 or so thousand in Sutter County. Do you know how many people we're talking about, the homeless, down in that camp along the river bottoms? According to Scott Mitnick, he's the county administrator from Sutter County, the guy that got kicked to the curb in Thousand Oaks because he lied and cheated and was doing personal stuff on company time and twisting company's arms to pay for his boys' school baseball advertisements while making $300,000 a year, couldn't afford to pay for that himself? This Scott Mitnick, so he was told he'd need to fix the homeless thing. Now, Scott Mitnick claimed that down here along the river, where they're trashing the river bottoms, that there's 100 to 400 people, and we're like going to spend millions of dollars to solve homelessness. I'm going to tell you something right now. This is not prophetic. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a psychic. I'm just going to tell you because I know. 2 years from now, 12 months from now, 36 months from now, we're going to have homelessness. 4 years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to have homelessness, right? And all we're going to do is we're going to set up another level of government to fund every year instead of fixing your roads. We're going to close offices. You know, some offices in Sutter County aren't even open some days of the week because Scott Mitnick designed a better schedule, not to benefit you as a citizen, it's to benefit the employees. When is the last time you've seen government redesign their system to increase the benefits for you as opposed to their employees? Are we? Is it over already? I guess it's over for the first hour. We'll continue this in just a couple of minutes when Santos says we can.
Oh, let me tell you something. I am so sick of Washington and all its works and all them politicians down there and them congressmen and the congressmen. Boy, I'll bet you won't find none of them congressmen turning down their electric blankets tonight. Because if they did, their secretaries would get up and go home. Oh, Reedus, the Democrats is doing the whole Democrats, and you put them in there. That's the face you had on you when you come back in the polls. Well, the Democrats' way of running this country is to go tell us all how we ought to make sacrifices. God, they're great on that stuff. But they're all going to have us over the hill to the poorhouse. We ain't going to be able to drive over there because we ain't got no gas, so we're going to have to walk it.
Oh, the Reader's Digest says walking is very good for you.
Oh, ain't that lovely? The Reader's Digest can always put a little joy into poverty. Listen, my whole point is this whole thing with the energy and everything. This is all a conspiracy. No, you know that it's a conspiracy there. Listen, for years, all our lives, they've been telling us to go out and buy stuff that use energy. You know, all electrical stuff. They got electric toasters, electric ovens, electric stove, electric stereo, electric TV, electric race, electric hair blower, electric knives, electric every damn thing. Not to mention the cars. And now, after all the big corporations there make the billions and billions of dollars worth of profits, signals, wham, they're changed. And after telling us for years that we can't live without this junk, now they tell us that we gotta live without it. The country is going straight into the dumper.
Welcome back. You're listening to Live with Lou. And, hey, we're starting to get some phone calls on buying my raffle tickets. Help me out there if you want to buy a raffle ticket. We're $20 a ticket to support the trauma intervention program. If you never heard of trauma intervention, we go out on 911 calls in the Yuba Sutter area. We go on about 40 responses a month, helping folks that are the survivors of really bad stuff that's happened, whether it's a fire, whether it's a shooting, whether it's a car accident, health loss. And we just make sure people get the best service they can from our community. So if you want to be one of 300 chances to win a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm plus 3 magazines, you can dial me up or text me at 713-1838. I'm on the radio, so I won't be able to answer the phone. Just leave me a message, and I'll connect with you when I get off after 12 o'clock today. Each of these tickets, you know, whether you win or not, you can get an hour free shooting action over at the Shooter's Paradise on Calusa Avenue. So check it out. Help us out. And We appreciate it. Hey, I was talking about the homeless issue. You know, our founding fathers, the problem is, so many of us don't have any idea how the country was established or what they believed or why we got so successful so quickly in this country to be one of the most powerful countries in the world. And through ignorance, we're about to kill the golden goose, or the goose that laid a golden egg, because we don't know what we're doing. And so we've created a government that the founding fathers thought would be bad, and government just keeps gobbling up more and more of the assets that we earn through hard work, and they give it away to people through welfare, and then what I call white-collar welfare, which are people that work for government that are doing tasks that we never intended for government to do, and most of them just sit in offices and push paper back and forth and answer emails and the phone occasionally, and they get paid for it, right? And they call it public service. So one of the areas that government took over was charity. So they forcibly take your and my money, called taxes, and if you don't pay what they want, they will take what they want, plus interest, plus penalties. They'll even take your house, and you think, oh, they want to solve homelessness, but they'll put you out of your home if you don't pay them what they want. And then they take your money, and they give it to foreign countries. They give it to illegal aliens. They pay for kids at Yuba College to go to school that don't belong in this country. They actually pay for kids at Yuba College, right out next door to our studio here. And they pay for kids at Yuba College to fight the immigration over their deportation hearings. They pay for their 2-year extension. It's called DACA. Kids that were brought into this country that never did get any paperwork and didn't sort out all those issues. And now our public school system refuses to cooperate with immigration. In fact, takes our tax money and funds the application for their extension to be in this country. Isn't that amazing? And waives their out-of-state tuition fees. See if you can pull that off traveling to any other country. So then the other area they've done is they've taken our money and they give it to our next-door neighbors who don't want to work. It's called welfare. Or they give them food stamps. Or they pay for most of their rent or their utilities. And did you know, if you're like, I'm a property owner, I own my house. That's all I own is my house and then a few things. But because I own my house, I get charged a lot of money each year to pay for schools, even though I'm long past raising any children. So in this country, or in this state, let's say, just keep it to California, if you own property, that means you're funding the schools. If you don't own any property, you don't have to pay anything towards schools. You get free education, including if you don't belong in this country, you're illegal here. Now, for some reason, Mexicans, primarily Mexican illegal immigrants, I don't find other illegal immigrants complaining about this, but the Mexicans, I think, feel that their country was taken, that the southwest United States was taken from them at some point, and therefore they should get to do whatever they want to do, come into this country, tap into all the benefits of this country, even though they're not a citizen of this country. Now, at one time, it's interesting, if you think about immigration, when people used to come through Ellis Island from Europe, you could come to this country without quotas back then in the early 1900s, but there was no benefits other than the ones you experienced in getting a job and having a better opportunity in this country. That was the benefit, jobs and better opportunity. There was no welfare benefits. There were no welfare benefits. There were no Social Security benefits. And so people either made it or they didn't, and they went back home. Today, they would be like the lady that came up to me after I talked to them. What are we going to do about all the homeless people? I said, I didn't get a chance to talk to her very long, but I was going to suggest, why don't you take one in? That would eliminate one. Just take one into your house. Scott Mitnick says there's between 100 and 400. Man, there's, let's see, I think I think there's 96 or 97,000 people in Sutter County. If just a handful of them would take in one and reform them, get them off drugs and alcohol, help them with their attitude, maybe help them get a GED if they didn't do that, to apply for a job, teach them how to apply for a job, I think we'd solve it. But instead, this woman wants us to spend millions of dollars in Sutter County of money we don't have. Do you know Sutter County's broke? Well, how could it be broke, Lou? The lights are still on. Well, people can be broke and still be hustling, right? Did you know that we have $150 million we owe to promises we made to people who work for Sutter County in pensions, and we can't pay it? If you doubt me, call Nathan Black at the Sutter County Auditor's Office. We have a $150 million debt we can't pay. We got roads. We got offices that aren't even open all the time where you can get into them Monday through Friday. You think, you can't even run a business if you don't keep your offices open Monday through Friday, but the government can do whatever they want. Screw you. You think the government's there to serve you? No. The government, they're going to spend millions of dollars to help 150 to 400 homeless people. Did you know that? If you take $2 million and you divide it by 150, that's $13,333 per person that we're going to devote to that 150 people down there by Shanghai Bend. Instead of just going down there with law enforcement, tell them you ought to move, you can go to a drug rehab, you can go to shelters, give them a list of shelters, drug rehabs, et cetera, and move them. That's $13,333. The sheriff, I heard, said, or somebody in law enforcement in Sutter County said, we can't arrest our way out of this. Hey, why are we arresting anybody that's a pedophile, a thief, a gangbanger? We've been arresting people like that as long as I've been living. Criminals, homicide, domestic violence, and we have not solved the problem. Let me just read the Bible, will you? The reason we haven't solved the problem, it's the sinful nature of mankind. We're going to be arresting people until Jesus comes back, and then the arrests are going to stop. Do you get it? So you think we're going to arrive with utopia through arrests? No, but you have to put people that want to be rebellious. If you don't want anarchy, you're going to have to deal with it. I had to handhold a guy this week over by Starbucks because a gal was hitting me up coming out of Starbucks. Normally, I don't shop there because of their weirdness of the company, not the people that work there. But a gal was hitting people up coming out. She happened to be black, and the worker for the security company happened to be black. And I walked over and I said, "Hey, ain't that your yob right there? That's your yob." And I could tell he didn't want to fuss with her because she was black. Because she was hitting people up for money coming out, and he was supposed to be there to stop that. If we don't have law enforcement and a city and county administration to stop that, all hell's going to break loose. So we're going to spend $13,000 to $15,000 per person per year for homeless. Why don't we just give them the money? Let them be drug addicts. We're going to spend, if there's 400 people down there in those camps, in fact, in this document that Scott Mitnick wrote up, he's a county administrator who doesn't even want to live here. His family's still down there in Thousand Oaks. He's just up here trying to straighten out his resume so he can move on. 400, if there's 400 people in those river bottoms, we're going to spend $5,000 annually on homeless services. More and more homeless services. Scott Mitnick says, it's interesting when you know how to write and you want to manipulate to get your agenda in, you can shade the figures. Like he said, there's less than 1% of the population is homeless, less than 1%. The fact is, I did the figures myself. It's less than 0.5%. Hello? It's actually 0.4 tenths. It's between 0.4 tenths and 0.5 tenths of 1%. Is that less than 1%? But it sounds bigger, doesn't it, when you say less than 1%? We're talking about a very, there's more people committing robbery than there are homeless. There's more people assaulting. Do you realize that in just a month, Sutter County DA's office under Jason Parker arrested 40 sex addicts trying to have sex with 9 to 14-year-old girls. 40 in 1 month. We got more sex addicts wanting to be hit on little girls than we have homeless people. Do you think we can't arrest our way out of it? So just forget this. We're not going to arrest him. This coming Tuesday at 3 o'clock, you folks in Sutter County better get serious. If I was in Sutter County, I'd be saying, don't spend any money on homeless people, period, because you're wasting money. The government thinks that they are better at helping other people than you are. Listen, people, that will never be true. The government they got lots of money and little love. You know what people need is love. And I'm not talking about having sex with them, and I'm not talking about giving people everything they want. Many of the people that are wanting to give all this money away would not raise their children the way they're dealing with the homeless. That's why they won't take them in. Because they would use tough love on them, and you know what the homeless are going to say? We don't want this. I don't want to follow any rules. I had breakfast last Monday with one of the most experienced. This guy and his wife, Linda, Roger and Linda Vaca, are the most experienced people working with people that are down and out in our community. And you think, oh, well, did they take any college classes? No, screw college. Screw college. People in college don't know jack about working with people on the street. Come on. These social workers, are you kidding me? Roger and Linda Vaca lived in a home, a part of Jordan's Crossing Ministry in Oroville, and took in convicts coming out of prison and helped them get on their feet. They didn't put them in a home and they go visit and lecture them. They lived in the home with them for years. Roger and Linda, and Roger wasn't like some ex-druggie. Roger is a successful cabinet maker that some of my friends that are general contractors put his cabinets maybe if you got a nice home, maybe his cabinets are in your home. Roger Vaca took over, he was on the board of the rescue mission, and when Bob Ash died and they went through another director, Roger Vaca took over the directorship of the mission. It's interesting to me in these documents that Scott Mitnick wrote up. He never mentions the Twin Cities Rescue Mission. This is fast. This shows me he doesn't know jack about this community because he's not from here. And he's totally clueless on who has been doing the heavy lifting on homeless for over 60 years. It hasn't been Hand Up. It hasn't been Hands of Hope. It hasn't been Casa de Esperanza. It hasn't been the Salvation Army. The heavy lifter on homeless folks and druggies and dopers and people with a bad attitude has been the Twin Cities Rescue Mission since 1956. And all they've received is disrespect by both cities and both counties. In fact, when they did redevelopment in the 1970s in Marysville, they tried to run them completely out of business. They forced them out through eminent domain when they were on First Street, gave their building to a group of Jewish folks to put a synagogue in. That's where the synagogue is down in Lower Marysville. and they didn't want to give them another place to stay, and they ended up where they are now off of 14th Street in Marysville. So there's a little historical document that Scott Mitnick writes up, says it's been well documented that California in general and Yuba Sutter Bi-County region in particular has experienced a rising homeless population over the past 2 decades. It is estimated that the Bi-County region has a total homeless population of 800 to 1,000. Less than 1% of the total population. That's what I say. It's actually less than 0.5% of the population. Let's get a perspective. We got over 167,000 people around here. He describes a homeless person as anyone living or sleeping not sleeping in a traditional form of shelter, single-family house, condo, apartment, mobile home, public institution. I don't know whether he's counting people in drug rehabs as homeless or at the mission as homeless. I think the mission's handling 60-plus people a night. I want you to hold that figure of 60 in your mind. He said that, Mitnick says, between 150 to 400. Listen, people, do the math. They spent $100,000 putting people in hotel rooms last year. If you screw up enough in this country, we'll pay your way. You don't have to work anymore. You just look stupid enough, screwed up enough, cause people to be a big enough pain in the rear, we'll pay your way. If you added up all the time that all these Sutter County and Yuba County department heads that are getting $100,000 to $200,000 a year are spending on sitting around blowing hot air about something they don't even know anything about, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars of staff time. The Bible says when the blind lead the blind, they all fall in the ditch. Sutter County, just like Yuba County, is heading into the ditch. And in the Appeal Democrat, they will be celebrating, we are helping the homeless, we are just doing such a wonderful job, and supervisors will be rubbing each other's back and taking smiley photos and celebrating the 1 or 2 people that they actually saved from the degradation of homelessness. It actually says here, I'm amazed, there are no reports of children under 18 living in this area by the Yuba City boat ramp. I said, oh, that's good. It says prior to 2000, it lists all the nonprofits, Bridges to Housing, Casa de Esperanza. By the way, Casa de Esperanza does not take people off the street. They only take, to qualify for Casa de Esperanza, you got to get beat up by a live-in or a spouse. Could be someone of the same sex you live with or someone of the opposite sex. But you got to get whooped up on to come over there. So they haven't made a big dent in homelessness. Those people are usually in a home. So that's CASA. Hands of Hope, Regional Emergency Team, that's REST, Salvation Army. And then under etc., isn't it interesting that under the etc., ETC dot, for you and Oliver's, that means etc. means ETC, that's everybody else. It's interesting that the big heavy lifter of people that are screwed up, Twin Cities Rescue Mission, isn't even mentioned. Even though they're doing all the heavy lifting on what we call Bendorf Zoo or 14 Sideways in Yuba County, where they got a fence around a bunch of tough sheds from Home Depot and got people lodged in there. But according to the head of the rescue mission, as long as you use drugs or alcohol on the outside of the fence and then go in, you're good to go. Just don't use it inside. So outside the fence, you can find, if you go looking for Easter eggs or anything, you're going to find hypodermic needles out there. Roger Vaca said, we never had hypodermic needles around the rescue mission before. In fact, he says, if you'll notice, people are inside in the tough sheds, and then they're outside the fence, camping all over the place in tents. That never happened either before. So the county says after they decide, without having any community approval, without any following any rules. In fact, I said, Roger, what's that big pond next to this Bendorf Zoo. He said, Lou, that's where all the drainage goes off. They don't even have the place so it drains. So now we have a malaria pond at the north end of Bendorf Zoo. It's like a big swimming pool in there. And he said, Lou, they were supposed to come and drain that out, suck all the water out of it. But it's just standing swamp there, and it's a runoff because they paved over or they put gravel in there, and it's running off from there. So they put in this complex, spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in Yuba County. Then they turned around without asking any permission of the rescue mission, who manages their people, and they left a hole in the fence so they could let the people feed over at the rescue mission. And then they complained, the county did, about the fact that there's no lunch because they just serve breakfast and dinner. I don't know if you've seen people on the street. They're usually overweight and out of shape. They don't need 3 meals a day. But the county insisted on the Bendorf Zoo people getting a lunch, so they paid $3 a piece or $3,000 a month for lunches for these folks. And they claim like they're changing their life. And Mr. Mitnick claims that they're following the model that Bendorf set on the Yuba County side. Did you know that the Yuba County is not only has stopped the lunches, they couldn't keep up the $3,000 a month. Do you think we ought to pay adults buy lunch? Does the county buy your lunch? I used to heard Sheriff Whitaker before Sheriff Brandwood. He used to buy his staff lunches on your dime. Should the government take your money and my money and buy lunches for people that won't work or prefer to stay loaded all the time? Back in the day before I got Jesus on board, I would prefer to stay loaded all the time too. And if the government wanted to buy my lunch, I'd just say, yeah, I'll take a burger, right? I'll take a taco. You want to buy my lunch? You think if people want to buy your clothes, buy your lunch, that's communism, folks. Yeah, you can live over there in that apartment. We got you, right? And we'll give you a little money every month. Just stay over there in an apartment. There's a city in California now that's now going to give people a minimum of $500 a month. They're just going to give it to them. Anybody. If you're a little short on money. I can't remember the city's name. I'll think about it. I'll probably have to Google it. So it says, we're getting a little history here. And it says there are all these federal and state programs, and it said these nonprofits used to handle the homelessness really good. You know what happened, folks? The government quit enforcing the laws. And the government, like my friend Walter Williams says, he's the economics professor at George Mason University. He says whatever the government wants more of, you finance, like subsidize, and if you want less of it, you tax it. So they tax you. In fact, they tax married couples the worst because they don't want more kids. And then they fund homelessness. They give people money to stay loaded on drugs and alcohol and not to work. They pay people's rent for them. They put people in hotel rooms. Can you afford, you out there working every day, can you afford to take your wife and go stay in a hotel room? I doubt it. So all these, what Mitnick says, we're going to tap into federal, state, and local government funding. You know what that is? You think that funding, where do you think that comes from? All that funding starts in your and my pocket. Subsidy programs, funding. You know something? This guy's a socialist. What's he even doing up here in Sutter County? He's in the wrong county. He needs to be involved like in San Francisco or L.A. That's where he's from. That's where the air smells sweet down there. Said as the number of individuals has increased that are homeless, Yuba County and the city of Marysville began to take steps to more actively manage their homeless population. Let me tell you what the truth is, folks. Yuba County and the city of Marysville let the homeless population do whatever they wanted to do for years. set up camps, behave how they set up their own rules, their own laws. They left. They didn't. If I don't pay my garbage bill to Recology, and I say I'm going to haul my own garbage, they'll file an action against me. They'll put a lien on my property. Did you know that? I'm forced to use Recology. I like Recology. I love it when I watch the garbage truck go by and pick up my garbage. I said, thank you, Jesus, right? My garbage just goes like that, and it's a good buy, right? I see that as a good value. I don't have a pickup to haul my own garbage. But if I did, the county, I have no freedom to haul my own garbage. Do you know that? But if I go over into River Bottoms, I could haul shopping cart after shopping cart after shopping cart of crap down there. I could take dumps down there. I could cook dope down there, and nobody does a thing until I finally leave, and then they will go in and clean up after me. And you know who pays for it? You and me. Mr. Mitnick takes care of that. And he there's a term he uses, a euphemism. I'll find it here in a minute. So he says he's praising Yuba County and Marysville. Do you know what's happening right now? While you're sleeping and you're thinking, oh, yeah, Robert Bendorf and his supervisors, they're solving homelessness. And they cleaned out the riverboat. You know what's happening right now? They've not only stopped paying the lunches for homeless people in 14 Sideways, it's not going so forward anymore. Although the appeal Democrats still praising them, right? What's happening right now is that the homeless are moving out back into those camps. They're in Thorntree, they're in Hollywood Trailer Court, they're in Horseshoe, and they're now have a new camp behind the Marysville Cemetery. They're moving back in there. They're like pigeons, or they're like crows when you stir them up, and they circle, 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 and then when you get impatient and leave, they land right back and poop right on the next person that comes along. That's what they do. So that's exactly what the homeless are doing. They're moving back there. And the guy who actually talks to the homeless, Scott Mitnick in his write-up here says, one of the points is we're going to engage the homeless. Oh, we got 1 minute. We're going to reach out well, you don't need to reach out. My friend Roger, he talks to them all day, every day. All day, every day. That's his mission in life, is helping people get their head straight and rejoin society. And you know what he tells me? He said they don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to move into a home. They don't want to take a regular job. How can they? They're loaded all the time. You're going to put them through a 1-year rehab and then hope they get a clean urine test? We can't even keep our teenagers with a clean urine test. I get kids in juvenile hall, in and out, in and out. I said, how come you came back? They said, I got a dirty urine test. You think anybody's going to hire that kid until he gets straightened out? Nobody's going to hire him. I don't care what the laws are. They'll figure out a way not to hire them, even if they say, you can have marijuana in your system. No, people aren't going to get hired. Forget that. Roger said Sunday, he said, Monday morning when we had breakfast, he said, Lou, honestly, man, they are like dumping. Do you know they're going to create a multi-million-dollar homeless building out of Whitaker Hall and down in that area? And they are not going to take care of any more people than the rescue mission does. Do you know many of your tax dollars are going into the rescue mission in Yuba County? Not one. And you know the government hates it. That's why they never mention them, because it's a shameful thing. Why would you need this other? Why don't you just why wouldn't Yuba County double the size of the rescue mission? Fund doubling the size of the rescue mission. In fact, Wikiman says I'm talking too long again. We're going to go for a break. I'm going to tell you what's going on at the rescue mission right now, and hopefully help you get a clue on what's shaking.
bringing new meaning to the term first responders.
Fellow community members stepping forward, volunteering their time to help others faced with what might be some of the most traumatic incidents in their lives.
It's called the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP. It's been used in communities across the United States for years, and its volunteers have been dispatched to provide what they call emotional first aid. A collaboration between police, paramedics, fire departments, and even hospital staff is making sure residents are emotionally taken care of in a time of crisis. Residents are volunteering their time with the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP, dispatched to the scene of a fire, accident, or death to focus on the emotional needs of those left behind.
It's just being there and being comforting, like a good friend or an extension of your family.
Ready to assist, sit, and listen to community members in a time of tragedy.
To learn more about the Trauma Intervention Program, visit yubasuttertip.org or call 673-9.
This fall's hurricane damage is severe. What should the federal government do?
This massive rebuilding effort will end up being one of the biggest ever.
We'll be seeking resources from the Congress to make sure that disaster relief is available.
Politicians from the areas that were hit always say, give us lots of money.
We do need and will need federal resources.
Texas Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee wants about $150 billion just for Texas. So far, Congress has agreed to a portion of that. Of course, only the federal government can send in the military and other first responders. After Irma, 13,000 National Guard soldiers helped rescue and evacuate people. This is the kind of emergency response we expect from the federal government. But rebuilding afterward? Why is that the federal government's responsibility?
We're going to have to restore a lot of housing. Our infrastructure has to be restored.
Yes, but why is that a federal job? Washington has no money of its own. Anything it spends is taken from states and local governments, from people who would probably have been smarter about spending it locally. The idea that it's always the federal government's responsibility is new. Until recently, businesses and charities handled most disaster response. In 1906, the massive San Francisco earthquake and fire that followed destroyed 80% of San Francisco. Despite this vast amount of destruction, the city was rebuilt quickly. The population recovered to pre-quake levels within just 3 years. This happened because rebuilding was done by residents, charities, and businesses, not by a bureaucratic government. The disaster even created some opportunities. All San Francisco's banks were destroyed, but one banking entrepreneur reopened quickly, giving loans to all sorts of people who needed help. His bank grew to be the Bank of America. 7 years later, the Midwest was hit with a huge storm now called the Great Easter Flood. 11 states flooded. Rising water and tornadoes killed 600 people. The federal government did very little, but businesses stepped in. The National Cash Register Company built 300 boats to rescue flood victims and then provided meals and shelter for thousands of people. The role of businesses after disaster is seldom appreciated. Yes, they want to make a profit, but they also want to help neighbors, and they want a good reputation. After recent hurricanes, big box stores like Home Depot and Walmart were quick to bring in fresh water, batteries, and food. In Puerto Rico, Coca-Cola donated $1 million, PepsiCo $2 million. Elon Musk offers to rebuild Puerto Rico's electricity grid. Researchers found that after Hurricane Katrina, businesses and charities provided much more help than FEMA did. A few years ago, Oklahoma took a big hit. For 3 days, tornadoes tore through the state. FEMA spent lots of money to help rebuild, but even NBC's anchors noticed the private charities did a better job.
If you're waiting for the government, you're going to be in for an awful long wait. The Baptist men, they're going to get it done tomorrow.
The Baptist men got bulldozers and cleared tornado debris from more than 1,000 homes.
They brought in bobcats and bulldozers and chainsaws, and they just went to work.
Within days, the Baptists gave them a new home.
It was a mess out here, and they cleaned it up, and they've done that for our whole neighborhood.
All of a sudden, we hear hammering, and Maddie looks back and she grabs my shoulder and look up, and they're already on our roof.
You have people driving through, handing you meals. People I didn't know would just walk up and give us money. It's just overwhelming to me that we were that taken care of.
For 200 years, when disasters hit, neighbors took care of neighbors. But now we hear a big storm requires big government. I say the head of the Baptist Charity has it right.
I don't think there's any kind of disaster that can take place that the nonprofit and faith-based groups cannot take care of.
Welcome back. Clock's off in here. What time is it anyway? How do we take a break at a weird time like that? We take a break at a weird time? Did I do it? I do something wrong? I don't know what we're doing. I lost track of something here. Anyway, hey, let me just state something for you. Oh, by the way, I got another one of my former buddies. I don't want to, whether he wants me to mention his name on the air, but he was a long-time employee at Marysville Police Department, retired, and he said, hey, I'll donate some money towards the gun, but I don't need any more guns. So thank you. So we've got a couple people wanting gun tickets and helping out for the gun thing. So if you want to help me keep out of trouble with the tip people and you want to get into a raffle for the guns, just give me a dial up at 713-1838, and I got these tickets, $20 a piece, and you get an hour of shooting at Shooter's Paradise, and you could win a M&P Shield 9mm with 3 magazines. Anyway, you need to keep my honor, and I need to save face before the tip people at the next meeting. I want to mention this. I'm going to go back to the homeless situation, Yuba Sutter, because what's going to happen is we're going to create a whole nother level of bureaucracy of government giving out social welfare to people that they shouldn't even be involved in. I don't believe that the government should have anything to do with welfare at all. In fact, what you just heard there was John Stossel talking about in terms of national emergencies. You think, oh, how can faith-based people and all that do when we lose all these homes and there's flooding? Actually, it's pretty easy, actually. During this fire right now, the reason the faith-based groups aren't more involved is the government says, stay out of it. We got it. We We took all your money. Now we're going to spend all your money because we know how to do it. But when all through this fire, the two center locations in the foothills, the central locations to get help is the Loma Rica Community Church, which is always a rescue center whenever there's trouble in the foothills. And the second place is not a religious group, but it's a nonprofit, and it's the Lions Club, the Foothill Lions. And that's where a lot of the information and disbursement of resources would happen. Foothill Lions, Loma Rica Community Church. Think about that. And I've had churches call me during the week. Lou, you know what's going on? Tell me how to hook up. We got the washers and dryers we want to give. People got furniture, da-da-da-da-da. But when the government takes over, everybody just goes on about their life and doesn't feel a sense of responsibility towards their neighbor because they think, oh, the government's got it, right? I think there's some areas where the government needs to got it, and that's with law enforcement. And I have fond memories of working with Marysville Police Department as a chaplain until the chiefs began to always want to have sex with everybody, and pretty soon they wanted to arrest me because they didn't like me. But I have a lot of fond memories and good friends from those days in the early 90s, and one was one that just contacted us saying, hey, I'll pay for a couple tickets. Another one, sadly, I just read in the paper, died, and that's Randy Elliott. And I think Randy was one of the first guys I ever did a ride-along with the police department, and he was a patrol officer, and then I think he was a sergeant, and then he went into detectives. But Randy, a number of years ago, had a bout with cancer and had been struggling with it for years, and but he died. And when I read it in the paper, I was sad for his wife Cindy, and so I just want to, people, I don't, what do you do when people die that you like? and you care about. And it's a sad time. But anyway, I just wanted to, we had a good friendship and relationship over the years, and just in his memory, I just want to dedicate the rest of the show to him, as I've been reflecting since his partner in detectives contacted me by phone on a text and said, "Hey, I'll help you." So I want to mention, and this is an example of how the community rallies around when government doesn't take over. And the oldest veteran in the United States lives in Austin, Texas. He's a black guy. He's 111 years old. And he has lived in his own house since 1949. He was in World War II. And he has never had a central air and heating, refrigerated air and heating in his house. So one of his third cousins said, it's in the summer in Austin, it's hot as hell in there, according to Volma Overton. And in the winter, she said, it's cold as hell. So Richard Overton, who is 111 years old, spends most of his time sitting out on the front porch of his Austin home that he's been in since 1948. But Meals on Wheels in Central Texas and Home Depot Foundation, and they got some help from Austin, the city of Austin as well, and some other nonprofits. And after Mr. Overton went into the hospital with pneumonia, they went in and remodeled his house, and they put in central air conditioning and heating. And that's what people do. Our communities take care of one another. But when the government came in, and you can read all about it if you're really interested, if you work in government, and you want to read all about how it's really supposed to be done, you could read a book called When Tragedy Strikes. It was a 1990s book by Marvin Olasky. And he was a journalism professor, he maybe still is, down in the Austin area. But he wrote a book that actually had an impact on the Congress during the Clinton administration, and it had such an impact that they reformed some of the welfare laws to make people get a job instead of just being on welfare from generation to generation. But unfortunately, through the decades, and when Barack Obama took over, he reversed all the get a job elements. Instead of a hand up, Barack made sure it was a handout. And as his view was, they all deserved it because they're Americans. And so they should just, if they didn't want to work, whether it's Nancy Pelosi has the same view, it's all right. If they didn't want to work, it's fine. They don't have to work. And we have some sort, my feeling is that people don't want to work. Like I know my friend that sent me the money, the buying the tickets here, used to work for Marysville Police, and Randy Elliott, who died this month. They remember when Mark Siemens, they had the attitude that people, you don't force people to work. If they don't want to work, they don't have to work, but they need to obey the laws. Can you liberals, can you get there in your own mind that people, if they don't have as much as you, should still obey the laws, no matter how much their income is or whether or not, you can have you have the freedom in this country to drink a fifth of vodka a day and sit in your home and watch TV or whatever you want to do, and you can get loaded every day. That's the freedom in this country. But you don't have the freedom to get loaded, not pay your rent, not pay your utilities, end up on the streets, and then have me pay your salary. Me pay your way into a hotel room. That's what Scott Mitnick wants. He wants people to behave however they want. And then the citizens have to, are we going to go back? We're going to did I take a break at the wrong time? I took a break at the wrong time. I misread the hand signals, gang. We do these hand signals, and I totally missed it. Sorry. So, anyway, they got this guy named Scott Thurmond. He's got Thurmond Consulting. He is a homeless pimp. And what he is he's making a killing, a financial killing, off running around from county to county saying, I will tell you where to get the money and how to solve homelessness. But it's really not solving. The people don't become unhomeless. They just They just move into buildings that are government buildings and are funded by you and me. Scott doesn't give any money towards the homeless. Scott Thurman doesn't, nor Scott Mitnick. Now, Scott Mitnick makes so much money, he could take, if he would, he could take some of his money, rent a house in Yuba City, and he could just put people in there because he knows Scott Mitnick is very bright. He is so bright that he knows how to fix the homeless. So why doesn't he take and do an experiment and put them in his own house that he rents in Yuba City? And he could even stay there while he isn't with his wife and family down in Thousand Oaks. I think that's where he is today. He flies back and they say, oh, no, he doesn't really fly back and forth. He drives his old junker back and forth, right? But why doesn't he and the supervisors each purchase a house? All those supervisors are wealthy, you know. They're getting a lot of money a year in their jobs, plus they get a lot of money a year to be a supervisor. Why don't they each buy a house and put like 5, 6, 10 homeless in there, and then they coach them and teach them how to subsist on their own and get off drugs and alcohol, right, and not do crimes, not molest people. And why don't we do that instead of taking your and my money, right? So Scott Mitnick, now, I talked about in the Territorial Dispatch that they were going to have a temporary homeless camp with tents. Now they've switched that up since that article came out, and now they're going to take Whitaker Hall or the Sheriff's Training Center. They're going to demolish the shooting range. I don't know whether they're going to take over the Twin Cities Rod and Gun shooting range and the posse, but they're going to convert that building into handling 60 to 90 homeless people, and they're going to spend millions of dollars a year. Now I want you to think about this. That's no more people per month than the Twin Cities Rescue Mission is taking care of in Marysville, and they're going to spend millions of dollars a year. You know how many tax dollars it's costing you for the Twin Cities Rescue Mission? Not a dollar. I think it's costing them to run between $5,000 and $10,000 a month at the Rescue Mission. Here's the big secret nobody wants out. Yuba County has asked the Twin Cities Rescue Mission to take over Bendorf Zoo, where they have those tough sheds, and run that thing. Isn't that amazing? You think, oh, yeah, they really got the bull by the horns. They know they found the secret to solving the matters of the heart, right? When homeless are saying, we don't want to, we like your money. We like the food stamps. We like the free medical care, right? We like to go into a phone booth when we have a really bad headache and call for an ambulance instead of walking over the hospital ourselves. We get a free ride on the taxpayer from Bi-County Ambulance, right? We get better medical care by we can dial 911 for free right off a phone booth, or off even a phone that we haven't paid the fee on. We can dial 911 and get an emergency to come right down into the thicket in the river bottoms and pick us up and haul us over to the Rite Out Hospital, where we get a meal and a little change of clothes and get a couple Vicodin, and we'll be good to go. Right? And so the rescue mission does that for free. We'll be
Combat death in Africa sparked a political spat between President Trump and a Florida congresswoman. Services for Sergeant LaDavid Johnson began today in a Fort Lauderdale suburb. Johnson was one of 4 U.S. Special Forces troops killed October 4th in an ambush. In the latest Democratic Weekly Address, Massachusetts Congressman Richard Neal discusses the Republicans and President Trump's tax reform proposal. Congressman Neal says both parties acknowledge that reform is needed.
Both Democrats and Republicans agree that something must be done to simplify our tax system. Our current tax code is far too complex, riddled with unnecessary loopholes that allow some to avoid paying their fair share.
Neal claims the proposed plan would see tax revenues from individuals rise by over $2 trillion. Revenue from corporations would drop by $6 trillion. The president tweeted this morning that he's optimistic a plan could be ready by the end of this year. Former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon spoke at the California Republican Party convention in Anaheim and called on Republicans to start working on effecting political change.
We don't have a problem with ideas. We have a problem of understanding how to win.
It is about winning. Nothing else matters. If you want to take your state back, if you want to take your country back, you're going to have to roll your sleeves up.
During his speech, Bannon took aim at former Republican President George W. Bush, saying, quote, there has not been a more destructive presidency than George Bush's. President Donald Trump says he doesn't plan to block the scheduled release of thousands of never publicly seen documents related to President JFK's assassination. Fox News, fair and balanced. Some help, and none too soon, of the high-flying style to reconnect Puerto Rico.
Residents in remote areas of Puerto Rico are getting back on the internet thanks to a pair of solar-powered balloons. Google's parent company, Alphabet, announcing 2 of its Project Loon balloons are flying over the U.S. territory, providing internet services to areas where cell phone towers were destroyed by Hurricane Maria. The balloons, flying at 60,000 feet, allow text, emails, and basic web access to AT&T customers. They're able to stay above the island by changing altitude to catch favorable winds. Rich Dennison, Fox News.
For the time being, an appeal court is blocking an abortion sought by a pregnant 17-year-old immigrant being held in a Texas facility. A 3-judge panel appeals court has ruled 2-1 that the government should have until October 31st to release the teenager. She could then obtain an abortion if she chooses. If she isn't released, the case can go back to court. What do you do if you get in trouble for trying to bite a police officer? One woman's response takes the cake.
I'm sorry.
That's exactly what Selena Daly of Lake Charles, Louisiana had to say to the police officer she tried to bite. She and a friend went to a wine tasting, and Daly had just a little too much to drink, passing out in her friend's car. The friend dialing 911 for a little help, but when the cops got there, Daly tried to bite one of the officers. She was busted for public intoxication and assault, but after sobering up, she brought a cake to the officer, inscribed with the message, "Sorry I tried to bite you." Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
The Houston Astros and New York Yankees are headed to Game 7 in the ALCS tonight. I'm Debbie Hanley, Fox Radio News.
Did you know that 323,999 people lost their lives in 2014 due to AR-15s, AK-47s, and other rifles? That's 887 lives per day that were lost. One person died every 97 seconds.
No.
When is this madness going to end?
No, that's not right.
What do you mean it's not right?
That's the Planned Parenthood number.
Oh, so you're saying that's how many babies Planned Parenthood killed?
Right.
Oh, well then how many people died because of these crazy assault things?
248.
248,000?
No, just 248.
In like a day?
No, that's the entire year in 2014.
Oh, wow. Well, that changes things. Well, did you know that 323,999 innocent lives were brutally murdered by Planned Parenthood in 2014? That's 887 babies' lives that were killed per day. One baby lost his or her right to life every 97 seconds. If you're so concerned about saving lives and protecting lives, banning AR-15s, AK-47s, bump stocks shouldn't be your highest priority. If you're actually concerned about saving lives, don't ban guns, ban a...
All right. I think we're on time right now, right? I'm on the right hour and everything. That's what, if you don't do drugs when you're a kid, then you don't make these kind of mistakes, right? That's the problem with me. All right, well, I continue. Come on, you guys are helping me out. I got another couple of calls. People are taking 1 or 2 tickets. I got a veteran, although she retired from TIP. I still have hard feelings about that. But anyway, she can always come back. She wants to buy a ticket. She wants to pack a weapon. I like it when the women buy the tickets and buy the weapons. So, yeah, we got an hour. So if we still got time. In fact, you can, if you can't decide, you can call me anytime, 713-1838. You can text me or call me if you want to get in on this. The drawing is next Saturday night, not tonight, next Saturday night for a Smith & Wesson M&P Shield 9mm, including 3 magazines, and each ticket, whether you win or not, you can go over and shoot the place up over Shooter Paradise in their range. Just go for it. So I'm talking about this incredible. Actually, what's going on in Sutter County is they've lost their ever-loving mind. When law enforcement officials say we can't arrest ourselves out of this, it's just so fascinating to me because I worked with all these guys for years, rode with them, arrested people, DUIs. I mean, why don't we quit bugging people when they're trying to drive home from the bar and they're weaving all over the road and running over fire hydrants and running into people? Why do we bother them? We arrest hundreds of them a year in each county, probably, and they keep drinking. There's just more and more of them want to drink and use drugs and drive and weave all over and get on the wrong side of the road. People, some of them drive into Ellis Lake. They drive off into ditches. They do all. Why can't we arrest our way out of that? I just don't know about this concept, arrest our way out of stuff. Domestic violence, I don't know how many times I've gone with law enforcement people and gone to homes where partners were fighting with one another, and the cops are doing their very best to counsel them and to keep them from going to jail and not kill each other. Why don't we decide to just let them all do whatever they're going to do and just pick the bodies up and pick the body parts up and not have to arrest them and go to all the... I just don't understand how we're not going to... Why don't we... If this we're not going to arrest ourselves out of this philosophy, why don't we employ it in other areas? I don't know. So we're going to spend millions of dollars. Obviously, this decision isn't being made by law enforcement because they know better about these people than people like Scott Mitnick and guys that claim, like Conant the farmer, the PE coach Whitaker, Mr. Munger, who, you know, his middle name is Those Effers. Larry Those Effers Munger, who has he's in the grocery business. What homeless person has he ever helped? Dan Flores, the guy that you never see outside of a suit. What does he know about? He's never even been in the river bottoms. I don't think he has a pair of shoes that even are other than dress shoes. What does he know about homeless people? Who's in charge of this? They say that now all these social welfare workers are going to do all these outreach. Listen, in Sutter County, they don't even do fraud anymore. They don't even check if you want to sign up for welfare. They don't even check to see whether your address is legitimate. Did you know that? And all of a sudden, these people are miracle workers. They're going to walk on water. They're going to change the hearts of homeless people, right? So they're going to create their own rescue mission. They don't want to give the rescue mission any help in Yuba County, which was it's a Twin Cities rescue mission, right? Hold that thought. That means both sides of the river. They've been serving both sides of the river since 1956. But instead of helping them expand, they want to create their own, run by government workers, spending millions of tax dollars versus the Twin Cities rescue mission that takes no tax dollars, takes care of the same amount of people, right? Do you think... If this building that they're going to build, like Whitaker Hall, plus they're going to allow tents to the south and remove the shooting range, of course, you know, there's no problem. We'll build a new shooting range. We'll build new Little League parks. We'll build a new arena. But Scott Mitnick's not putting in any of his money. The supervisors are not putting in any of their money. They want to spend money that should be paying the pensions of our employees that we promise. It should be taking care of the roads, the ditches, right? New sewage lines, water lines. It should be taking care of infrastructure, right? Improving, building landscaping, building baseball parks for kids to play, right? But no, we're going to spend it on people that we've already spent program after. You know how many federal homeless or federal poverty programs there are? There is 127 federal programs, not counting state and local handouts. How many handouts do you need to give your kid to convince him to get off drugs and go to work? How many handouts is that? I'm telling you what, if my parents were alive, they'd be kicking your butt to the curb. There would be no handouts if I wasn't out working my tail to the bone, right? So they're going to build a homeless shelter, a permanent homeless shelter out of Whitaker Hall. And you know what they said? Well, we'll create another training center. I get a kick out of these people. They're out of money. Sutter County is essentially broke. And Mitnick comes up here and he's saying, oh, we're going to build another. Oh, yeah, we'll build you a shooting range over there. Oh, yeah. Flores says, Supervisor Flores, yeah, we'll build you. Oh, we're going to put a nice big, come on, baby. We're going to put some nice baseball parks up there for you Peach Bowl Little League guys. And shoot. There's nobody in California to have a shooting range like we're going to have. Who's going to pay for all this? I don't want to pay for it. Sutter County people better stand up and say something. Said, oh, where are we going to do where we have people work? They got to work off their crime. They got to do public service. They all meet down there at that Whitaker Hall. That can't happen there now. You know, the question is, at Whitaker Hall, are they going to check on sex registrants? Because that's within, you can't have sex registrants in an area that's right next to the Little League Park. So they're going to have to move the Little League Park? The bigger situation here, you know, this is a funny thing. If social workers could have fixed these people, what have these social workers been doing all these years, right? And now if we could remove them out of Shanghai Bend so common folk can go down there and fish and hunt and hike around, right? Why couldn't they have removed them long ago? You know, it's fascinating how government uses these euphemisms. The euphemism in this document says we need money to go down into the river bottoms to remove unclaimed debris. You know what that is? That's crap. Unclaimed debris. That's all the refuge that I put in my garbage dumpster that goes out to Yuba Sutter Disposal that I pay Yuba Sutter Disposal to take. But homeless people have created camps and they just pile the crap all around their operation. And then when they decide to leave or they're invited to leave, then you and I, our tax dollars, pay the government to go down with front end loaders and load up hundreds of thousands of pounds of crap. CVS carts. Did you know it? You can go into CVS or Walgreens and you could steal something like a $150 item and you might get yourself arrested. But if you steal their shopping cart, you can take those for free and they're about the same price. Did you know that? That there's you remember that game you played when you were a kid and you could shout Ollie Ollie auction free? Well, it's just, you get a pass. Law enforcement is not going to bug you if you steal $100 and something cart and use it for your mobile hotel and your storage unit. So when all those things are down there, in fact, I had some friends that found a shopping cart in the river. And amazing how far they took that from CVS and Walgreens and Food for Less and Food Max and all those places. They just take those shopping carts. They think, oh, they belong to us all. Isn't that fascinating how people? It's kind of like when I used to raise pomegranates at Glad Tidings. People would stop, get out their buckets along the highway, and just come right in and just pick to their heart's desire. It looked like somehow God just planted those plants all in rows, equal distance apart, watered them, fertilized them. God did it instead of me. And then they produced all this wonderful fruit, and people just said, well, look at that. What a coincidence how that happened. All those trees right in a row like that, just, it's a miracle. And they went out there and just picked to their heart's desire, and some of them at 2 a.m. when Sutter County Sheriff rolled up on them. Just hold that thought, some of your homeless folks. All right. You know, they started talking over here in Sutter County about short-term homelessness. now the term has shifted this week that they're now talking about long-term homelessness. And here's what we have, folks. This is just another giveaway program because the problem is we would never have this problem. Scott Mitnick says this program really got worse at the turn of the century. That sounds like a long time ago, but that was 2000. Do you know that when they started to give out welfare, the first welfare programs, that a lot of people quit work to go on welfare? The working poor are people that worked every day for a living and took pride in their work. People said, why are you doing that? The government will just give you a check and you can just hang out with the kids or the wife, whatever. And many men just quit working. And so what we've done is we have actually subsidized or rewarded people for no work. In fact, maybe you didn't think they intended it to be this way, but when they created welfare for women with kids, there was one condition. The dad couldn't be in the house. So that meant that essentially the guy had to be elsewhere or not involved with the family. Guys hopefully are more than just a meal ticket. So what the government does is they go in and there's all these, hopefully they're unintended consequences to destroy the family and destroy people's dignity and destroy people's initiative, just like the Forest Service and the Park Service have it figured out. They say, don't feed the bears. There's good reason, because pretty soon the bears prefer a handout bologna sandwich or a little chunk of chicken than they do berries and having to step into that ice cold water in the river and flail about trying to whack a salmon over the head, right? It's easier just to go in and raid a campground and take what you want. Now, that's exactly what we've created in people that steal and take a dump in your lawn, because it's just easier to do that than get into an apartment, go to work every day, even when you don't feel like it, clean your own toilet. It's just easy to take a dump in the neighbor's yard. That's just the way this kind of shakes down. So if you want to stand up and say, hell no, then go over to the supervisors meeting this Tuesday at 3 o'clock. If I was a Little League parent and had my kids down there, I would not want this group of folks next door. Now, I work with these people. I'm in Yuba County Jail 2 times a week for several hours. I work with them almost full time. And so I'm not saying let's not work with them. The fact is there are people working with them. But you can only work with people, like I have heroin addicts that we are buddies. But when they get out, they want to do heroin, then they call me and want me to help them. And I'll say, I'll help you get into a rehab, but I'm not going to give you money because I know you're just going to buy more heroin, right? So there are people working with these folks, but what the government needs to do instead of getting involved is get out of the business. Quit giving them money. Quit feeding the bears. Quit giving them handouts. Quit giving them food stamps. Quit giving them welfare. And you would have a change happen. And let the nonprofits work with people, because they know people. In our hearts, we have a sinful tendency. Do you know that? You know, if there's free turkeys at Thanksgiving, a lot of people could pay for their own turkey will go get a free turkey. That's a bad sign right there in America. That's why Glad Tidings got out of the giveaway turkey business, because we kept track of who we were given to, and we noticed that the people we were given to never did help anybody else. They just always came to mooch off us. That's a bad sign right there. You're not helping people get up. When they say, oh, we're going to do a hand up, not a handout, it's just rhetoric. Government entraps people in welfare. Now, I want to just slip over to a couple other topics here, because I just wore the whole day out on that. I'm tired of talking about it, actually. So I wanted to mention, I saw this photo and it just shocked me. I've seen these photos before, but do you remember when Barack Obama used to say, well, we're working on a strategy for ISIS. Yeah, I used to think, why don't we just kill them? Let's just start right there. Like people that are barbarians that are slicing people across the neck and shooting people in a row in the head, those people, we need to just shoot them and then tell Jesus we're sending them his way, right? Say, they're coming your way, Pops. Yeah, these people are, they're coloring outside the lines too much. So we're shooting them and sending them your way. So if you go on Google and look up and see if you can find a picture of Raqqa, R-A-Q-Q-A. R-A-Q-Q-A. That's one of the top cities and a stronghold of ISIS. And the thing I saw was a drone thing going over Raqqa. And I'm telling you, it kind of shook me to my core because it reminded me of the World War II bombing pictures of Germany and Great Britain after they bombed them out. And you had just these miles and miles of multi-story concrete buildings that were just a hovel. And that's what this Raqqa thing looks like. But while Barack Obama spent 8 years pondering a strategy of ISIS, we let the U.S. military just go in there and just kick butt and kill enough people to get everybody's attention and get the rest of ISIS to like say, I think we'll just prefer jail time than the 72 virgins we were supposed to get once we got shot. So anyway, check that out. I thought it was very fascinating. The other thing I want to bring up is I was wondering, when they were talking about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump was trying to be kind in calling the survivors of some of these military folks that have been killed in action. I was wondering, did Barack Obama ever give Brian Terry's parents a call? Brian Terry was the Border Patrol guy that they weren't allowed to use real bullets. They were sending them down there, or the Mexicans had AK-47s and all kinds of bombs, and they gave them like little plague toys to work with. And so they murdered Brian Terry, and they murdered another fellow as well. But I don't believe that Barack Obama or our favorite Attorney General Eric Holder ever reached out to the family of Brian Terry. But I read this article about the Border Patrol agents busting sex offenders. And then the other thing, you remember when Donald Trump says he is against Mexican criminals coming across the border? All the Mexicans got all lit up like, oh, you're anti-Mexican. I mean, Donald Trump knows more Mexicans than the average Mexican. He's got more employees working for him that are Mexican, and they got all lathered up. Well, let me just help you here because this article about Border Patrol agents, let me just give you a couple days in the life of Border Patrol agents in the Rio Grande Valley by South Texas. Border Patrol agents at the McAllen Station arrested a Salvadoran national on October 11th. And when they did a records check on him, they learned he had an active warrant from El Salvador in connection with a homicide in that country, according to information they got. 3 days later, agents in the Rio Grande City Station found a female Salvadoran near San Isidro, Texas. And when they processed her, they showed they realized she was with the MS-13. She was all tatted up with MS-13 gangs, and she admitted she was a gangbanger with the MS-13. Then, at the West Laco Station along Texas border, near Far, Texas, they arrested a illegal Mexican national. He'd served 4 years in prison for a conviction of sexual penetration with force. For those that aren't familiar with that, that's a bad sign when that happens to you. The Los Angeles court allowed the criminal alien to plead down to a charge of rape, from a charge of rape. Elsewhere in Texas, agents assigned to the Brackettville Border Patrol Station in Del Rio sector arrested illegal alien who crossed the border October 6, about 15 miles south of Brackettville, Texas. The guy is a member of the MS-13 gang. I thought these were all just innocent kids that were just poor kids. The Nogales Station, South Arizona border, arrested Marcos Cruz Castro, 21, on Friday after he illegally crossed the border near Nogales. While processing him, he has a conviction in Wisconsin on felony charge of exposing a child to dangerous materials, along with a misdemeanor conviction of sexual assault. How do you get a misdemeanor sexual assault? Can you just assault people anymore and get off? Jeez Louise. Next morning, agents captured another fella at Nogales. Jose Barola Pliego, 40, took him to the station for processing. He had served time in Mexican prison following a murder conviction. His record also includes prison time for numerous immigration violations in the U.S. Where's that wall when you need it, right? Sunday afternoon, Nogales agents, they were just busy. They transported Luis Vargas. Some of these guys got this. This is Vargas. I'm Vargas. This is my brother Vargas. And my second brother Vargas. Anyway, they found out that he had 2 convictions in 2013 for felony sexual conduct with a minor in Phoenix. For those out in Olivehurst and Linda, that's having sex with a kid. Some of you guys don't even like that in your criminals. And let's see. In Tucson, town of Sassabee, Arizona, Monday morning, they arrested Alberto Hernandez Ortiz. I tell the guys and Mexican guys in jail, I said, you guys are 3 or 4 names. Quit twisting them around because I never can figure out what your name is. You know, I keep trying to keep track so I can give them a certificate. And I said, let's just pick 2 names and go with 2 names. So anyway, he had a criminal history that includes a murder conviction in Florida. Oh, Alberto, he's up to no good in Florida. And they'd also deported him in 2014. So that's just kind of a little, way to go, Border Patrol. And they're actually, under President Trump, they actually get to use they don't have to use those plastic guns that are black guns anymore. They can use real steel guns that shoot real bullets. Thank you, Jesus. All right, we'll be right back.
Bringing new meaning to the term first responders.
Fellow community members stepping forward, volunteering their time to help others faced with what might be some of the most traumatic incidents in their lives.
It's called the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP. It's been used in communities across the United States for years, and its volunteers have been dispatched to provide what they call emotional first aid. A collaboration between police, paramedics, fire departments, and even hospital staff is making sure residents are emotionally taken care of in a time of crisis. Residents are volunteering their time with the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP, dispatched to the scene of a fire, accident, or death to focus on the emotional needs of those left behind.
It's just being there and being comforting, like a good friend or an extension of your family.
Ready to assist, sit, and listen to community members in a time of tragedy.
To learn more about the Trauma Intervention Program, visit yubasuttertip.org or call 673-9300.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. The paper is a weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch, which features local news and events for the Yuba, Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
I'm J.C. Hall, and we're going to talk today about the Christian's relationship with government. If we're going to stand on truth, we need to be consistent with our principles, and we need to let the Bible be the authority. If you must submit to the law of the land just because it's the law of the land, then that preacher in North Korea, having Bibles smuggled to him, well, he's sinning against God. Clearly that's not the case. The fact of the matter is, if you have a different gospel in Houston than you have in Shanghai, than you have in Bangladesh, you have a false gospel. If it's true there, it has to be true here. If they should obey God rather than men, then American believers have the same obligation. Jesus affirms these principles. In Matthew chapter 22, the Pharisees show up to trip him up with a question about paying taxes. Well, Jesus answers their question with a question. He looks at a coin and he says, whose image is on the coin? They say, well, Caesar's image. Okay, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and render unto God what is God's. And Jesus indicates this division, this sphere of authority, that some things belong to Caesar and some things belong to God. And it's interesting, he uses the issue of the image to answer their question. Genesis chapter 1, and the Bible says we were created in the image of God. I don't have Caesar's image stamped on me. At my creation, I was stamped with the image of God. Through the fall of Adam, that was marred. But through the power of the rebirth of the gospel, by the grace of God, when I was born again, I have God's image re-stamped on me. I don't bear Caesar's image. And as Jesus indicated, there are some things that don't belong to Caesar.
Once again, the left is exploiting a national tragedy to further their agenda. Shame on them. Shortly after the horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas, the left had their marching orders. Here's the new Democrat Party spokesman, Jimmy Kimmel.
The Senate Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, and Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, a number of other lawmakers who won't do anything about this because the NRA has their balls in a money clip, also sent their thoughts and their prayers today, which is good. They should be praying. They should be praying for God to forgive them for letting the gun lobby run this country.
At least Kimmel had the decency to wait a few hours after the tragedy. Before the blood of the victims was even dry, Hillary tweeted, "Our grief isn't enough. We can and must put politics aside. Stand up to the NRA and work together to try to stop this from happening again." The focus of the left was not about the victims and their families, but about how they could push their gun-grabbing agenda. Here's a city that could use more of their compassion.
Chicago faces an epidemic of gun violence.
Tonight in America, tens of thousands of children are living in a war zone.
Entire communities living in trauma.
Why is Chicago so deadly?
We're reaching a state of lawlessness.
Chicago is the poster child of the left on gun control, and yet there were over 4,000 shooting victims in Chicago in 2016. The left's utter inaction in Chicago is grossly inconsistent with their insistence that something must be done following the Las Vegas shooting.
Why don't we act? What is the problem?
This is time for a national dialogue.
We can pass common sense gun reform.
We need common sense reforms.
Democrat Illinois Senator Dick Durbin said, "The notion that there's no way to prevent gun violence is false. And without action to stop gun attacks, Congress is complicit in them." Really, Senator Durbin? Where's the left's compassion for black children gunned down in the streets of Chicago? I call this selective outrage. Here's the deal. The left doesn't care about the daily killings in Chicago. That's because Chicago is a city with strict gun laws and rampant gang violence, so those murders can't be used to advance the left's agenda. Black Americans senselessly murdered in Chicago don't fit their gun control narrative. Chicago is on fire with out-of-control gun violence, and we hear crickets from politicians because those victims aren't as easily exploited for a gun-grabbing agenda. The left exploited the Las Vegas tragedy to advance their gun control agenda, but remain silent on Chicago shootings. Democrats are following Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel's advice.
You never want a serious crisis to go to waste. And what I mean by that, it's an opportunity to do things that you think you could not do before.
Things like even stricter gun laws. Democrats know gun control doesn't stop gun violence, but that's not the point. The point is to exploit a national tragedy for more power and control. I'm Deneen Borelli with CRTV.
All right, this is Live with Lou. If you just checked in with us and wonder what in the world are these guys doing here. The good thing about it is you have a choice in America on radio. There's thousands of stations, so if you're liberal or you can't stand this, certainly don't punish yourself with listening to me. So this is the Patriot, and we're here on Mount Huth, and it isn't sloppy yet, so I still got my road tires on, my regular road tires. So we're finishing up here. We have, I think there's sports talk coming on here in 30 minutes. So thank you, man. A lot of you are dialing me up. I just heard from Dan Bill and my old friend. If you want to talk about helping people get out of the ditch in life, Dan Bill is the expert on that. He worked for Yuba County Probation for years, worked in juvenile hall. In fact, I hardly ever run into a kid that's 20, 30 years old that doesn't say, hey, where's Dan? They want to know where Dan is because they like Dan Bill. So Dan retired with the Yuba County Probation and now is working in agriculture with his in-laws. And so he called in and he's going to buy 5 tickets. So a number of you have called in or you've texted in. So if I'm going to be around here. Actually, I'm going to have my phone. So even though I'm going to be gone from here, you can text me if you want to buy the rest of these tickets, and then I'll be my chest will be stuck out and my head will be all big and everything when I talk to the tip people. So I sold my tickets. So anyway, if you want this ticket, Santos just realized that he said, he bought a ticket and he said, there's actually 1 hour free range time. And he said, that's worth the $20. I said, hey, that's right. That's why Shooter's Paradise is partnering with us, helping tip out. So if you went in on this, it's a 9mm. You know something? When you ladies, if you have this and a guy gives you a hard time, shoot him. Then you're good to go, right? You don't have a problem. Then you can just go back home instead of getting assaulted or something or weird. So it's nice for the ladies to be packing and just let a guy know, behave yourself or I will shoot you and then we'll just settle this. So it's a 9mm Smith & Wesson. It's got 3 magazines and we're going to have a drawing. And I'm going to see if the Church of Glad Tidings will draw it to make it fair so I don't cheat. I'm going to this is going to be right in front of the whole congregation. We're going to draw for the gun. Everybody will be excited because some of them bought tickets out there too. Some people left the church and we did what did we do? Didn't we raffle what did we do? A SR-15? Looked like a machine gun out there. We carried that thing in and raffled it off. People got all lathered up. So anyway, let me just tell you, if you want to give the church a hard time, you want to come out and shoot it up at Glad Tidings, you will not leave alive. Just hold that thought. Just think about that for a moment. We've been trained by some of the law enforcement's best out there. So that's that. Hey, you know something? I watched Steve Bannon talk, and I like the spirit. I've never really heard Steve Bannon talk, and I just listened and I listened and I listened. I thought, I like this guy. Anyway, he's got the spirit of hell no, right, in him. And I read this article about a Wyoming transsexual arrested for alleged rape of a 10-year-old girl in a bathroom. Let me tell you something. I don't care what those nutcases down in Sacramento do, right, that claim they're in the legislature. All in our communities, all we have to do is say hell no and just ignore the law. That law of allowing transsexuals to come into bathrooms where our children are, in the wrong bathroom, right? I wouldn't even let him in. If the guy started as a guy and now wanted to play as a girl, I wouldn't let him into either bathroom. I'd just give him a can and go into the janitor's closet. But to allow these bathrooms where a guy can go in or a locker room, I would just, listen, people, we're adults. Like I asked somebody the other day, I said, hey, we're adults here. When are you going to take charge? We're in charge of this community or this state. And why are we letting a minority of people called legislators make really bad decisions? Whether it's our education system, whether it's our system of morals, and calling depravity righteousness, you're going to go along with that? Why don't you just stand up and say they're nuts? And you're not going to do that. You know, here's what I'm hoping and praying for. That our sheriffs, you know, the sheriff is the highest authority in our counties. And we've had sheriffs in California tell the federal people on these national state parks that are arresting people for like just going to the park because they're Obama nutcases. The sheriff says, get rid of your weapons and quit arresting people, or I'm coming after you people. Now, I like that in a sheriff. Now, the sheriff can just tell Attorney General Becerra to go fly a kite, and that we're going to obey the laws of the immigration laws, and we're going to cooperate with immigration, and we're going to deport people, and we're going to hold people. If they want us to hold a person for a couple days, for instance, there's a big controversy in Sonoma County right now because the sheriff is a sanctuary city sheriff, and they let a Mexican guy go several times while the immigration tries to have a detainer on him, and he lit a fire in a campground over there. Now they're arguing over whether he started the fires that just burned through Santa Rosa and everything. Whether or not he did start those fires, this guy is a nutcase. And the sheriff keeps letting the guy go because he's a sanctuary state sheriff. Now listen, we have sheriff races coming up in our two counties, Yuba and Sutter. I don't know about you guys in Butte, Colusa, Nevada, Placer, Sacramento. I'm telling you, if I was voting for a new sheriff, and I will be in Yuba County, but I'm not going to vote for anybody that's going to say I'm going to cooperate with the state of California and not with the immigration. And my feeling is we need to have a sheriff that says, you know something, this county existed before the state existed. And we're not here to serve the state of California. They're supposed to be serving us, and they are not being helpful by not allowing us to hold illegal immigration people. And all over the state of California, people's children have been murdered by illegal immigrants. It's bad enough when your kid is murdered by a citizen that's a nutcase. But to have somebody that doesn't belong in this country and has come here illegally and remains here illegally to then stab your kid to death or rape and mutilate them or shoot them or beat them to death, man, I'm telling you, what kind of country do we have when that can happen? And we condone it. We actually condone it. We need sheriffs to say, hey, we'll pick and choose what we're going to do in this county, and we're going to follow the Constitution of the United States. When I went on the Board of Education for Yuba County, I had to take an oath of office. And these people are taking these oaths. These people in Sacramento, assembly people and senators took an oath of office. They don't give jack diddly about that oath of office. They are not following the Constitution. They just thought it's the same way with the Obama people. They never followed in fact, they didn't have any use for the Constitution. And it was just a nuisance to them. It just stood in the way for what they wanted to do. They wanted to make this country essentially a communist country. And they worked their angles to get that. Now, we have a guy, a transsexual, who knew this kid and knew this family, and he took this 10-year-old girl, and he's accused of raping her, right? Now, honestly, people, if the government doesn't take care of these people, we should, right? Like there was a gal that went into court down in Modesto, I don't know how many years ago. They ended up prosecuting her, put her in prison. She went in and killed the molester that molested his kid. I think if the government does not follow the Constitution and will not protect the citizens, the citizens have a right to protect themselves. There is no question about it. That's why the Second Amendment is there. That it isn't about hunting. It's about it isn't even about protecting yourself against your neighbor. That's nutso. The other night I had a nutso neighbor, the lady across the street, a single woman, called me and said, can you come out on this porch? There's a guy after me. And I went out and confronted this guy. The guy was nuts. And the social services from the county has him put up in an apartment, and he's harassing women in my neighborhood. Ultimately, I'm going to put the guy out of his misery and put a little Post-it note in his pocket what his name is and tell him, let Jesus know he's on his way. I'm not going to put up with that nonsense. If the police don't patrol and they sheriff's department is not going to take care of business and enforce everything from vagrancy to panhandling to loitering, honestly, people, that's very simple to do. And once people realize that it's not welcome here, they move on. I read an article Steve Krager with the City of Yuba City wrote. I know Steve's a good guy. He's got good motives. But honestly, his guys, his police officers, I like the Yuba City Police Department. No personal issues. We serve them and tip. But honestly, if Mayor Giuliani, when he took over New York from Mayor Dinkins, people were shooting people on the subways. And people wouldn't ride the subways. You could smell urine on them. There was crap on them. There was garbage on them. And people were just jumping over the turnstiles. They were not paying their rightful amount to get on the subways. Giuliani just came in and cleaned up the small stuff. It's called the theory of breaking broken windows. When you fix the small stuff, when you address the small stuff, you end up addressing the big stuff at the same time. A lot of those small issues, those people got warrants for them. They cleaned up. They would not allow a subway car to leave the station if it had graffiti on it. They would, if it was in the yard, they would not put it out on the rails until they cleaned the graffiti off it. They cleaned that place up. They got rid of the small stuff, and Chief Bratton, William Bratton, and Mayor Giuliani cleaned up New York with right policies. When you have, Jesus said, if you build a house on a bad foundation, it's going to go down. And things like spending millions of our dollars on homeless people, what you're going to get is more homeless people and more debt in this county. And when you deal with small crime, people doing stupid stuff, I have guys that constantly are coming at me with their bicycles across Highway 20. It's crazy what's going on. There's no enforcement of bicycle laws. There's addicts driving around hauling dope. They're towing stuff. It's out of control. I live in Marysville, so it's nutso downtown Marysville. Totally nutso. If police will not do that, I'm telling you, like I had a guy tell me the other day that law enforcement in Yuba City, Marysville says anytime it's a vehicle versus a bicyclist, it's one of the homeless people violating the law. Just ignoring red lights, ignoring stop signs, driving the wrong way, cutting across right in the middle of a block. It's constant up and down East Street. You cannot drive down East Street in Marysville without people blocking traffic, either walking across with their dog, towing a trailer, or something, right? It's just nobody's enforcing the law. It's like, so they're going to, that's just small stuff. Well, in New York, they turned around murder rates and everything in New York by getting rid of the small stuff. Now, let's see, where are we? Oh, we got a few minutes. I totally lost my mind. Santos came in here at the break, totally had lost my mind. I was getting all off. And so let me do just say no to drugs. So if you do that when you're youngster, you can do a radio show and you'll actually stay on the beam. Have you been to the DMV lately? Do you know that they busted 2 DMV executives selling licenses? Do you know that? Going in and saying that a guy, tractor trailer, it isn't like a driving a VW Beetle. It's like people, they're giving away the A and B licenses, and I think that's for the big rigs and like a 2-ton truck. And they busted them, and these ladies had made a huge amount of money off this money. They went in. They went into these truck driving school owners, and they identified themselves, and they said, "Hey, we don't want to take the course. We just need the license." And they paid the truck driving school guys, and they went over to these 2 ladies, Carrie Scatalia, 38, and Lisa Teresiano, 51, and they just paid them the money, and they went in and gave them, they went in the computer, put their name in, gave them, they said, yep, they're good to go, checked all the boxes, gave them their deal, and they said, this is a lot easier than going to school. And I think I'd be a doctor. Maybe they'll give me a doctor. Every time I go to the ER, they see my little tip tag, but they don't read it, and they think, oh, can you come in here and see me? My kid's really feeling bad. I said, I only take cash first, then I'll treat you. So anyway, so I can't find the amount of money. These gals made like tens of thousands of dollars off this selling licenses. Did you ever, there was a time when I thought people were just honest. I thought when the IRS and the DMV, I thought these people were honest people. So anyway, they arrested these two ladies and said penalties in the case could include a sentence of up to 5 years in prison. Do you think that a state worker would ever get 5 years in prison for that? I doubt it. I doubt it. So there you go. So when the DMV, you can always, if you're having trouble passing the test, you might just say, hey, just slip them a 20, right? Just slip them a $25, $30 or whatever, and see if you can just get through on it. Let me do this final one. We got a few minutes left. We have an illegal immigrant. Another one. I left this one out. This is because this is special. Now, I don't know whether you're attracted to 80-year-old women having sex with them, but I'm telling you, I don't know what these boys from Mexico are thinking. This Jacobo Zelaya, 43-year-old illegal immigrant from Mexico, he was arrested after a 60-year-old man, the son of the 80-year-old woman, the guy's coming to visit his mom, right, 60-year-old, his mom's 80. And he hears his mom yelling. Can you imagine, 80-year-old woman yelling from the bedroom, help, right? He goes in, he's a Mexican immigrant, 43-year-old guy on top of his 80-year-old mom. The guy only beat him up. That's all he did, was beat him up. I think, what the heck? You're 80. My mom died when she was in her 50s. I think if she was 80, I wonder if I could just like leave it at beating him up. It's like, come on, man. It's like, that's like a ranch priebus. Can you imagine we started as does that blow your mind that the administrative, John Kelly, we now have this general running the White House, but we started with the mouse. Reince Priebus was doing that job, that little mousy guy, and now we got John Kelly. I said, what? Thank God Jesus has got a sense of humor and got us somebody that's got some balls, right? Instead of Reince. I know Reince Priebus, he's got to have a vagina, that guy. That guy, there's no testosterone in his system at all. All right, so this Zelaya was arrested. This is back down in, honestly, these guys down in Texas, they're just getting an onslaught of folks. So they actually have a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement hold on him, and he's got a $70,000 bail. The woman ended up in Valley Baptist Medical Center, got roughed up, and so the final thing today, we got a couple minutes, is this. Did you see where the country of Mexico, they just passed Senate Bill 4 in Texas, which says you can't be a sanctuary city in Texas, right? So we'll be kicking your butt, right? Mexico files an appeal. Not New Mexico, the country of Mexico. It's like, when will somebody just take the paperwork on the deal and put it in like a FedEx deal and just say, screw you? Right, screw you across it. It's like, when does a country mess with the state right up here? It's the craziest thing. I mean, this is, when I go to Mexico, I get arrested down there. I go down there, I get pulled over. They want money. They want this. They want guns. They want this. I've been pulled over more times. In fact, I've been all over the world, and I have never been harassed in other parts of, in particular in communist countries, man. They take care of business over there. I have never been harassed by a criminal or anybody. You get down in Mexico, it's like the wild, wild west. There's no rules down there. You want to get a job down there or something? Oh, you can't do that. You want to buy property? Oh, well, you can't really. You got to do a 99-year lease. It's just crazy. Okay, final thing. If you like, My friend Dave Green, as he told me, he said, Lou, my health insurance is $1,600 a month. He said, I am spending, you people, that stinking Becerra, that attorney general, he had the gall to say that Donald Trump is sabotaging the health system. Here's what I want. I just want Trump to say, listen, any health insurance company in the United States, forget Obamacare. If you want to sell policies, catastrophic policies like me, I don't want pregnancy insurance. I don't want mental health insurance. Right? I don't want abortion insurance. I don't want pregnancy I don't want abortion pill or what do they call pregnancy pill. I just want catastrophic, big deductible, right? And little premium. I just wish they'd allow that, because it's incredible. So what's happening in Britain now, in England, if you're a smoker, they're not going to want to do surgery on you. Did you see that? You saw that. And if you're fat, so all you out there, the liberals, will want the government to give you handouts. When the government gives you handouts, they have a right to come in and tell you what to eat, what not to drink, what not to smoke. But the thing is, some people say, smokers cost you a lot more money. No, they don't, because they die younger. So, yeah, they might take a little bit of money getting started and bad lungs and stuff. But who costs you all the money? Is people like me who take care of themselves. And I might live to be 90 and be mooching off that system all the way out, right? But the smokers all be dead by 50s, in their 50s, right? So you don't have to pay all those costs at the top end. But they're not going to operate on smokers and fix their lungs or fix whatever. It's over, I guess. He's running me out of the party's over. People are waiting to get in here. See you next week.